Yeah, yeah, yeah. So many lies that you hear from the net, they don't get her respect. She reporting the truth, not a check. You want an unbiased opinion straight from the chest, not a bit of accomplice or someone here for a check. Tune in, these are thoughts from a lawyer on a mission who goes so hard it's like she works on commission. Trolls in the comments might say she tripping cause they lack the knowledge, they don't know they missing. Got a couple current events that you like, wanna know about law from the eyes. Tired of all these blogs running lies because their agendas are disguised. Tune in to the intellect, cause I'm sure y'all missing all the facts of the case that she steady is gifting. Someone here for the people, man, it's so uplifting. If you ain't subscribed yet, then you just omitting facts.
Hey y'all, it's me. It's Pam Esquire, also known as your law intellect. I hope you guys had a great day. As you all know, I have been covering the Megan Pete versus Milagro Cooper trial, and the courtroom is freezing. It is freezing, and I have caught a cold, and I really was going to eat and go to sleep. But then too many people were like, "Girl, where you at? Where you at?" So I said, "Well, let me go on and talk about what happened today, because there were some highlights that occurred, but quite frankly, I'm kind of over it. Yeah, I'm kind of over this whole trial, but I'm gonna hang on in there for you all. It is anticipated that the trial is going to end tomorrow because the way we ended, Milagro was being cross-examined because again she was called in the defense case in chief, so they went over her testimony from today. They started her testimony, and so tomorrow Megan Pete's attorney is going to finish with the cross-examination. But it was a lot of highlights. I think Milagro's team utilized the weekend in a great way because they came back. They came back swinging. Okay, they came back ready to fight this here fight. And so shout out to Milagro's team for coming back doing their thing. But anyway, Jeremy McLamont, I think is how you say his name, or McLamont, Mr. Jeremy, he continued his cross-examination of Megan Pete. So that is where we started on this morning. And so he began by asking about Milagro being a mouthpiece. And they were like, you have no personal evidence, like you have no evidence that she was Tory's mouthpiece. Now, do you? And Meg was like, listen, I believe that her emails is evidence. I believe that her admitting that she received money from the dad is evidence. I believe getting online and talking about things that no one else knows, which she was talking about the DNA test, is evidence. And she said, and based on that, I believe that she is a mouthpiece for Tory. So then they asked her, they put up her video depth. They do the video depth to kind of show if you said something different before when the question was asked. And the question was, do you have evidence that Tory is paying Milagro to be a mouthpiece? And she said on that video depth, no, I have no personal knowledge, no personal evidence, rather. But I know that, again, on the video depth, she said, I know that it happened. But she doesn't have anything in her hand. So basically all of that subpoenaing, all of that phone records, all the dumping, I guess, old phones, and there really wasn't any tangible evidence outside of the Zelle payments that we saw that was like $3,000. So then they said, well, what evidence do you have that that she had information that wasn't out there before? Like what evidence do you have of that? Well, I believe the DNA, that DNA we have been talking about, where you posted about DNA in court hadn't even started. Yeah, that is what I think is evidence that she had information that nobody else had, that she had to get it from Tori. And they said, well, didn't you acknowledge that Academics is the one that posted that? Yeah, but she said they have the same source. So she came out, even though she reposted what Academics said, she told her people they have the same sources, and she knew this already. So who's the source? Like, who is giving you this information that only the parties to this criminal trial have? Who is the source here? And so I had put down, I was like, see, this is what happens. You know how some people, they use content and they don't tell, like, I got this from so and so, like this is from TMZ or whatever, and you want to make it kind of seem like you have an exclusive. That's what it was kind of given. Like, her saying that we have the same source was gave that I knew this information. I just wasn't saying nothing. That's what you can infer from that, is what Megan was saying, which, you probably could try to infer that. Instead of it being, I just reposted what Academics said and left it at that. I guess her commentary that she gave the impression that they have the same source, as if she knew this information already. So that's what she was using. So then they pull up that Des, you guys know that Des text messages where she said, where Meg asked, Des, you still collecting that information? Because I want to sue this lady. And I was like, in the exhibit, we talked about it before. And they asked her, well, was this the first time that you thought about you wanted to sue her? And she was like, well, it probably wasn't the first time. So then they pull up the other exhibit again, where it's really sad after the deep fake. When she posted, it's really sad how people go out their way to hurt me. When you see me winning, you go too far. Fake ASF. Just know that this is the last day of you playing with me, and I mean it. And that was on June 8th, 2024. And so they asked her, Meg, do you know who created the deep fake? And she said, no. Did you try to figure it out? Who made the deep fake? She said, I'm sure my team tried to figure it out, but they weren't able to. Well, why you ain't just try to sue the person who created it? What you suing her for? You could just sue. Why wouldn't you sue the person who created the deep fake? And she said, well, obviously, if we don't know who it is and who created it, how we gonna sue somebody we don't know? So then, and this is what I was telling Deb, I said, I don't know if somebody said this in the chat or if this was said up under the video, one of the videos, but if somebody asked about what if she made the video, or that her team made the video to try to catch her up and she got caught up in the game. So the question was asked, did you or your team make the video? She was like, did someone make a pornographic AI video about me for me? Like, did I post that or my team? She was like, no. So when she said that question, I said, that's one of y'all asked that question up in the chat. I can't remember if it was in the chat or if it was like, on the, like after when I go back on the video and some of the comments. And so then she said, well, I believe, this is Megan Pete still on the stand. She was like, well, I believe because it was Milagro that said, Ferris showed me the video. T. Ferris showed the video and said that Milagro was the one that told people to go see my light. So essentially, you're the one that brought attention to it and brought people to it. So then they did another audio, and on June 8, 2024, where she was saying, she being Milagro was saying, what's disturbing is that I'm looking at the video and I'm trying to debunk it. So what happened is she was online and people started sending her this video. So she gets the stream, I guess the link in real time. So she's explaining it like, what? Okay, let me go get this video. So they played a whole thing when she gets on the stand, which we'll get to. And so when this happens, she's like kind of critiquing, like, wait a minute, like, I know this girl ain't this. She did. This is real. It's dumb as hell. She dumb and whatever. cussing her out pretty much. Like, you stupid as hell. This is real. And this got out and you was just this sloppy to let something like this come out. And then she said, I hope it's AI. But she said, but looking at it, she said she was trying to debunk it. Meg doesn't have tattoos. So this is in the audio. She said, Meg doesn't have tattoos. This person on this video doesn't have tattoos. The body seems similar. Meg has a belly button piercing, right? Yeah, she got a belly button. This person got a belly button piercing. The skin tone matches. The hairstyle is all the same. I guess she had the little afro. And then she put on there, if this ain't real, essentially saying that it looks like it was real to her, and was like, if this ain't real, you need to sue whoever the hell put this AI video out. So that's what they played that video. So then the question was, did you know that did Milagro know that whether it was fake or not? And she did, of course, she ain't had that answer. And she felt like that video, she was trying to cover her tracks. That's what Meg said. I feel like when she was going through all of that, she was trying to cover her tracks, just in case. So that was that. Yeah. And so then they put up text of Meg. This again is Milagro's team, cross-examiner. They put up a text of Meg and her therapist. And this was from October 2nd, 2022. And Meg was like telling her therapist, I just saw the guy who shot me online. He's dancing in a club with another female rapper. And everybody's congratulating him on his album. And like he's just this amazing person. And she's telling her therapist, nobody cares about me. People do bad things, or they don't care about when people do bad things, or they just simply don't care about me. So either y'all think that y'all just don't care that people do bad things, or y'all just can't stand me. Where the people is getting online and he's going online like nothing happened, and people are just collaborating with him like he ain't just shoot me in the foot. Then she starts crying. She got really, really emotional. And she was saying that everybody that was involved that night, it's like everyone's living they're just living their lives like nothing happened. Tori and Kelsey, like, she got criticism. She gets painted like the villain. They make him somehow the victim. It's like because of that night, she feels like she's the only one that is facing repercussions for that night. He's getting praised and he just shot me. So she's going back and forth, talking to her therapist. She's like, I'm in tears and everyone pretends not to see. I'm tired of being ignored. And she's like, but I also don't know why I care what other people think about me. I just want to be happy myself. But I think that people should notice me. If someone is around me, they should know that I am really sad and I'm crying all the time. So then they ask, well, who are the people around you that you're saying should notice you, that you're crying all the time? So she said, well, I'm not sure who I was talking about. And no, it wasn't against people around her or nothing like that. She was just wondering, like, are they noticing that I'm sad, or they may not have really been noticing me or whatnot. So these are literally texts with her therapist. Then she's like, what if they're just ignoring me? I'm always so sad. She said, I think she has thoughts that maybe she's bothering people around her because she's always so sad. She said, maybe everyone around her is just frustrated with her because she's so miserable. So then her therapist tells her, I need you to do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, and sends her like the post of what the technique is. And she replied and was like, this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 doesn't work for me. That's it. That technique's not working. I'm still upset. I'm still sad. So then her therapist responds and she's like, sorry, you're suffering so much. We'll work on a new technique to try to figure out how you can deal with this stuff. So of course they asked her, well, at this time you had a lot going on, didn't you? You had several different things that were affecting you. And she said, yeah, I just really felt like the person who shot me seems to be just going on in the world like nothing happened. So then they show a video of her documentary. So in this documentary, I haven't seen it. Hopefully some of you guys are. Make sure you hit that like button. Okay, I know we moving kind of fast, but y'all hear this cold happening. I got to get some rest so I can be there in the morning. So the documentary, apparently she actually has clips of what people were saying about her. So it's like academics. There was a clip that came up about that. I think it was Joe Buttons. It was a clip where he said something about, she's talking about protecting the black man, black man, but she tried to railroad a black man or something like that. Like it was just all these different statements. And then it would look like it was some randoms that might have made it. That wasn't even like celebrity, but just was on the internet. Somebody was on there like, she was in the club the next day. She was in the club the next day. And then there was another one that was like, F Megan, she's done. So they got all these different clips, I guess, that was she put out in documentary. So they was like, the attorney said, well, did you compile all of this for your documentary? And she was like, no, it was whoever was the person that was doing, who helped her did the documentary is the one that compiled the clip. So I guess she was recognizing people that had been talking about her online. So then they asked her, well, do you care about what these people's opinions are? And she said, yes, that the opinions, they do affect her. It's a lot of information put online as if Tori is innocent, and she feels like nobody cared about her life, and she feels like Milagro influenced some of these people. She said, I believe that a lot of stuff that Milagro has put up and put out there has convinced a lot of people. And then it was one of a video they put up. I don't know who the guy was, but they just froze the video. So his picture was up there. And she said, I believe that guy on that screen. I believe that he also was getting information from Milagro, or Milagro was the one who was influencing him as well. And they said, well, why do you think that? And she said, I believe he had the police report and they had Milagro's watermark on it. So she said she believed that. She wasn't sure, but she believed that person put up a document and they had Milagro's watermark on it. So then they asked, so Milagro can't have an opinion? She's like, no, I don't care about her having an opinion. I care about what she's doing with this alleged opinion. And then he said, well, why do you believe that Milagro is the mouthpiece? What evidence do you have? What tangible evidence do you have to show that Milagro is his mouthpiece? And she's like, they say everything negative about me. She makes sure she says everything negative about me, and then whatever it takes to make Tori look good. So that's why I believe that she is a mouthpiece. Of course, with all the other stuff she's probably said over and over again, why she believes that with, putting out information that nobody has and all of that I already talked about. Then she said, it's not just about me caring about that per se. When it just comes to Tori, it's also a combination of everything, like everything that comes out of her mouth regarding the shooting, the deep fake, her family, pictures of her home in her phone. She's like, yes, all of that stuff bothers me. So then they put up a dep, and they put up, of course, the dep videos again. I think it was a dep video of Milagro. So she was Megan Pete was basically reiterating that it's not just about Tori, it's about her going further than the shooting. digging information on her deceased family members, and directing people to the deep fake video. So no, it's not just about Tori. It's about the combination of everything as to why she feels the way that she does. And she said, I just don't believe Milagro is a good person. I believe she's a violent person. I think she should repent, apologize. I just don't think she's a good person. I'm just like, I don't understand. Why would this lady have my house and her phone? So yeah, I quoted, she said, yes, I believe that Milagro is a bad person. So then they said, this was a question for y'all over here in this chat. They said, your decision to sue stems from the fact that she does not have millions of dollars. Isn't that true? You sued her because you know she ain't got nobody. And she was like, so you feel like I sued her because she doesn't have money? No, that's not it. And she said, and I never, this is Megan P. And I never said, they said, well, did you sue anybody else? She said, no. And she said, but I never said that I'm not suing anybody else. So she put it out there. Some of y'all might be catching them papers. Some of y'all might be catching these papers. Sorry, guys, my food is here. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. They said, have you sued anyone else? She said, not yet. So, what I will say too about Meg, because I didn't say she had this nice gray suit on and stuff. I said she's really making the courtroom her suit runway. So she had a nice suit on or whatever. And she was calmer today. Remember on Friday, I was like, she was getting a little snippy and stuff. So she was a lot calmer, where she wasn't as combative. She wasn't asking him a bunch of questions, him being the attorney. She was not engaging in like this back and forth banter. She was literally trying to answer the questions today. So from that perspective, she did well. Miss Pete did well. And then they put up the picture. It was another exhibit of Milagro with Sunstar Peterson. And they were like, you didn't like that when you saw that picture, did you? No, I didn't like it. I said, I believe that she's just bragging about having a relationship with them. And so the question was, is that another reason why you sued her? Is because she's a Black woman that's aligned with him? And she said, I think they alluded that she said it earlier. She said, I don't believe that I said that. So then they said, does Kelsey write music? She's like, I don't know. Before you and Kelsey's friendship split, did she write music? She said, well, I'm not sure. Well, anyway, didn't later Kelsey came out with a diss track and it was aimed at you? She said, listen, I haven't even listened to that all the way through. I may have listened to her rap before or whatever. I just don't recall, but I haven't listened to her little diss track all the way through. Do you recall the lyrics? And then they start saying some of the lyrics. Part of it was, couldn't control your feelings over some dick. If I was the one with the gun, it would have been a unaliving. I said, oh, so they went over the little lyrics and stuff in there. And she said, listen, I ain't listened to it because that was some mess. And she like chuckling a little, like, that was some mess. She said, I don't care what she said about, she ain't care what she said about her. And they were like, so that didn't affect you? That ain't affect you at all. Like your friend, that was your friend. She came up with a diss track. But that ain't affect you all. No, I'm not worried about what Kelsey is rapping about. Like, she ain't no rapper. What I care about what she rapping about. She said, Kelsey rapping was not at the top of my listening list. All right. She was not on my Apple, the little Apple list that you have. That was her rap, that was not top of my list. And they said, well, Partisan, didn't he make a diss track in 2023, sometime after the shooting? How long were you guys in a relationship? She said, I believe it was about 2 years. Did you listen to his diss track? Well, I don't think that I listened to it all the way through either. Did putting out that diss track cause you emotional distress? She said, I think that our breakup was emotional for both of us. No, I mean, obviously the breakup didn't make me feel good. It was for the both of us. He said, but I didn't listen to his either. It wasn't on top of my list of no diss tracks either. And then she basically said, I understand why he would do a diss track, because I'd be mad if I wasn't his girlfriend no more neither. She said, I understand why he was upset. So then they talked about the video where she was celebrating, and they said, well, what was that video that you said you were celebrating where she had the Hennessy in her hand? And she was like, I don't drink Hennessy anymore. So no, I wasn't drinking. And she had the straw in it, and it was in response. People said to Nicki Minaj, it was in response to that because of what Nicki had in her diss track. And they said, you celebrated the his. What song was that? She was like, his. And they were like, so what were you responding to on his? She said, oh, I was responding to a bunch of things. Was it other? She said, well, what was it? Oh, well, it was other rappers, people online. Was it aiming directly at Milagro? Well, no. Said, I'm not talking to Milagro, just people who believe certain narratives and that run with them. So almost like how I interpreted was, I wasn't specifically saying Milagro, but the people that she has incited at this time, or got the people that's running with what her narrative is online. So that was just generally speaking about all the people with all these different narratives. So then, they bring up Nicki Minaj. Nicki Minaj, she released a diss track. It's called Bigfoot. Did you listen to that? Man, that song was silly in the beginning. I couldn't get through it. So she said she ain't listened to that all the way through either, because it was so silly. She listened to them first couple lines and was like, girl, cut it out. She thought it was a silly song. She said it wasn't anything she wanted to listen to. And they said, oh, so you do have the ability to turn off some things, huh? If you don't want to listen to them, you got the ability to not listen to them. Yes. And then she said, all of these are rap music, like lyrics. I'm not going back and forth with a boyfriend. And, she said, and you see, I see why he upset for losing me. And she said, and then she said with Kelsey, that was my best friend, and I believe she took a bribe from Tory. So I'm not going back with these people that decide that they want to go ahead and do these diss tracks. Like, it ain't happening. She said, I don't believe anybody out here rapping a Kelsey song. She said it probably went all right for that day, but ain't nobody going around like, what's up with that new Kelsey diss? Like, I don't nobody, like, that didn't do nothing to me, because I mean, it was what it was for that moment almost. So, and then they said she said Party doesn't, they asked about the platforms and the numbers on the platform. So he said, well, Partisan, no, he doesn't have, they said, are those platforms, meaning Partisan and Nicki Minaj, are those bigger than Milagro? Because remember, this is all about you coming after the little person, but you got all these big people you can be coming at and you choose not to. So she said, well, Party said, no, I don't believe he got a platform bigger than her. I don't think so. Now, Nicki Minaj, she has a bigger platform. They said Eminem mentioned you not being shot too, didn't he? She said, Eminem? I didn't know he said that. So I guess she learned something about Eminem. So there was an objection that it was hearsay and they sustained it. So, but all that information was already out. So it was objected to and then it was sustained. They said, what about Drake? Did you hear his song? She said, probably. I don't know. I probably did hear it. They said, what about these lyrics here? This bitch lied about getting shot, but she's still a stallion. She said, they said, wasn't he talking about you? Well, I don't know what he was talking about. If he was talking about me, he's obviously doing it indirect way because he could mean butt shots. If he was talking, it could have been more directed. If it was about me, I feel like Drake would have directed for me. They said, isn't Drake from Canada? Yeah. Isn't Tory from Canada? Yeah. Is there some type of Canadian allegiance? And they was like, huh? What does that even mean? He's like, Tony, like, yeah, I kind of made that up. Aren't they supposed to be friends? Hasn't Drake supported Tory? She said, yes. And Drake is a big rapper, right? He said, yeah, that in my opinion, I believe he's a big rapper. He got a bigger platform than Milagro. Yes. But that fact you mentioned, what he said about you, that don't affect you though, right? She said, well, I'm not sure if he even talking about me. So then they pull up the post. One of the posts that is alleged defamation. And in this post, mind you, I told you all she's being accused of saying that Meg committed perjury. Now, if you follow Milagro, you probably know she has not used the term perjury. So she mentioned on the platform of academics, I got a whole long list of ways that Meg lied, da 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 da. Another post said something about there being another, is she trying to lie to the courts again or something like that, or deceive? I think it was, did she try to deceive the courts again? And she was talking about the cameraman. Remember the Garcia guy, Emilio Garcia, that sued her? And so that sued Meg Thee Stallion. So when you look on the post, she actually has screenshots of the lawsuit. So they were asking her about her, like, did she say in there that you committed perjury? No, but I mean, it says the courts. What else kind of court? Then, like, she was kind of saying, like, how you can infer it. Would you agree that that was just a question she asked? She didn't say that. They said no. She said a question in a form, but she did it in a form as if it was a statement asked and said that I was deceiving the courts again and putting it in the form of a question. So it really wasn't a question. She was making a statement, but then decided to make it look like that and put a question mark. So then they said, isn't that just what she believes? No. Isn't that just her opinion? So you heard a lot of that through where they were saying she's saying certain things, but it's just her opinion. So then they pull up the tweet from Milagro again, where she talks about, and we talked about this before, about this could be your brother, your father, your cousin who get 20 years with non-credible witnesses and botched investigation and all of that. And they're like, well, where is perjury up in here? And she responded, Meg was like, well, she made it seem like there was no evidence against him or something. None of this was true. Like, it was evidence that was against him. And then they said, well, yeah, it was a jury, but how do you know what the jury believed? Like, you don't know what they believe. How do you know what their thoughts are? And she said, well, they found him guilty. So then he said, well, if they find him guilty, do you necessarily know, like, if what they believe, what parts they believe, if they believed 100%, part of percentage, any of the percentage, like, how do you know? How do you know that information? And then they asked her about they asked her about the bullet fragments or something, like the bullet fragments being lost. Some of you guys were talking about that too. And I think she said she didn't know anything about that. Then they asked her if she had read the police reports, and she was like, she may have before the trial. Did you realize that Milagro, she took meticulous notes and she had a notebook at the trial? It's like, yeah, I learned it, through this whole ordeal, because apparently what they're saying is it's a lot of stuff you don't even know about this trial because you wasn't a part of it. Because remember, Meg came in and she testified and she left. Milagro was there with her notebook, so it was almost like she would have more information to know what's botched, what she feel like wasn't investigated correctly, and all of that, because she was actually there. You wasn't even there. So she's basically, Meg is hanging on the fact of the not guilty. But then, so they asked her, wouldn't she be in the best position to know if there was a botched investigation? And Meg was like, listen, just because she writing things down don't mean that it's real. And they said, what you see is Milagro Cooper's opinion. I said, yeah, this is her opinion. And I disagree with her. And she said, Megan was saying, it's not about her opinion, it's that she's interpreting and she's presenting things as if it's fact. That's what her issue is. She's like, no, she don't have to agree with her. They were like, does Milagro have to agree with everything you say and how you look at things? She said no, but she doesn't even consider the facts. Like, you're not even considering the facts. You find ways to try to debunk whatever facts is out. You don't even consider those. You don't just put out an opinion. You're making it seem, you don't even consider the facts that are out there. And what was interesting too is they started talking about that lawsuit, that the photographer, and they had a picture. So they had a picture of a bunch of people that was on, and that came, I think, in Milagro's direct. But they had a list of like all the people that was on there. And it just seemed like she really wasn't talking. So I didn't know who all the people were, but it was a few of those who were on there. Kelsey was on there that she doesn't talk to. I guess the friend Chelsea's on there that she don't talk to. Emilio Garcia was in there. She don't talk to him. But they actually talked about the facts of the case. I was like, ooh. Apparently she was accused of some things in the car. So anyway, the attorney said there was GSR on Kelsey's hands. She said, I don't know anything about GSR. Would you agree with Miss Cooper's that there were some non-credible witnesses that were at the trial? And she said, with me, no, I don't agree with that if she's talking about me. And she was like, well, do you believe that every witness was credible? So there was an objection that she didn't have personal knowledge. And they were like, nah, she testified. She said, do you believe that Kelsey was being truthful? Because she essentially was saying that Kelsey got on set, act like she ain't know nothing. So she was like, do you believe that Kelsey was truthful? She said, no, I don't believe that Kelsey was being truthful at the trial. And then she said, well, what is credible? I need to look up the definition of non-credible and see what that is. Hold on one second, y'all. Huh? Sorry, y'all. It's like 80 degrees and I done caught a cold in the courtroom. So then they say that when they put up her tweets, they're like, well, what part of the tweet is she presenting as fact? And so Meg was like, it doesn't say I think. It doesn't say my opinion. She's telling this is what it is to people. Like, that's how she's putting it out there. And then they was like, well, this is Twitter, right? This isn't like the New York Times or anything. And so Meg said, so are you saying New York Times doesn't write opinions? And he was like, no, I'm not saying that. So they kind of go over the whole opinions on Twitter and all of that. And she said, you're not going to be acting like this tweet is the only reason we are here today. That's what Meg said. Stop focusing on this tweet because that ain't the only reason why we're here. And then that's pretty much it. There was no redirect. There was no redirect. They was like, would you like to come back? It's like, no, thank you. No redirect. But they did read in what's called a request for admission. So when you do discovery, informal discovery, meaning not necessarily like depositions, you have written questions that are written down, and you'll say, admit that you defamed Megan P. Like, it'll be admit that you posted a deep fake AI and you knew it was fake. So apparently there was a request to admit about the deep fake, that she knew that it was deep fake, and she still continued to send people over there or whatever. And I guess Milagro responded, she cannot admit nor deny because she didn't know who posted it. She didn't know who created it. She didn't know anything. But she admitted and stated that I think that she believed that it was AI generated. Now, the issue with that is when you do requests for admissions, it's a way to narrow down your issues. So if she admits to certain things, then it's done. Now, the way the statute is when it comes to this AI deep fake is that's the issue. Like, so if it would have been, people are like, why is she saying that she thought it was real and she sent people over there because she thought it was real? Apparently, if it's real, then it doesn't fall up under this statute. This statute is fairly new in Florida. She may be the first, if not one of the first, that the jury is going to deliberate this week on this statute. And it essentially says that if it's deep fake and you knew it was deep fake or reasonably believed it was deep fake and you promoted it, you become liable. So she doesn't want it to be AI. She needs it to be real. So when they did this request to admit that, to me, it sounded like there was some type of admission as to AI. But I'm going to be honest, around this time, I started getting a little, what should I say, disinterested. So, but yeah, so they did do the request admission. What is interesting too, there was an issue where you guys probably seen a video of which Milagro was asked Megan Pete was asked a question leaving the courtroom about, what do you say about bullying online? Or what would you say about people in this situation? And she made a comment about bullying or harassing people online. She made a comment. You guys probably go and find the video. Well, apparently there was a gag order, and the gag order wasn't just for the parties. The gag order was for everything. Whoever, it wasn't this current judge or maybe her magistrate had did it generally where you can't say nothing to anybody or any media. So Milagro's team was all on it. Like, we want to file a motion for sanctions because she talked to the media. And so Meg's team got up. Well, it wasn't intentional. The judge was like, that's not the criteria. Your intent is not the criteria. The order says what it says. Like, you're going to have to come with something better than that, sir. He was like, well, maybe it was us where they were trying to take the blame for it because he said I was right next to her when it happened. And he was like, maybe I didn't explain it good enough or something. Judge is like, the order says what it is. Now, this judge is a stickler. Some people are trying to say things about this judge, but I think she is, if you had a idea in your mind about what a federal judge is, in my opinion, she kind of fits it. Like, she's serious about her job. She ain't playing. She's going hard on you. She going hard on you. If she give you grace, I'm gonna give you a little grace too. But she is not. I. She, to me, I think she's fair. And so she was letting his team have, like, no, she wasn't supposed to talk to nobody. So now what? So I think what the judge ended up doing, because I did see a grant in part, denied in part. So there was no like monetary sanctions or anything. Because they were like, it wasn't intentional when she deleted them texts, but she still got an adverse inference. That's what the judge said. We don't care about your intent. That's not if that's exactly what she said. She ain't intending to like delete it, and she still got an adverse inference and got, sanction for it. So you better come with something better than that. And so what she did was, it wasn't no monetary. She said, I don't think it deserves monetary sanctions, but I think what's going to happen is now she gets to get the defense Milagro team gets to call Megan back on the stand and question her about what she said to the media, and that there was a gag order and you basically violated it, or whatever their line of question is going to be. So that was something that came up. Another issue that came up that you guys will probably see is media. Who is media? So if you guys have been following me, one of the arguments that Milagro, so we'll get into her whole situation with her legal team, which was kind of bad, because I'm about to get into her direct. But one of the issues was, if she is considered media, then they were supposed to give her notice. Milagro's team was supposed to give her notice before they filed this lawsuit. And if they didn't give notice when it came to the defamation claim, then the defamation claim could potentially get dismissed. So apparently there was a motion to dismiss earlier on, but that motion to dismiss was within the four corners of the document. So the court was like, no, because it's viewed in light most favorable to the plaintiff. Now we have a whole record of what she does. She's an LLC. She has, and we'll get into that. She testified as to her trademarks. She's worked for OnSite. She had a contract with, Station Head, and get into all of that. And we're not saying journalism. That's what we were back and forth about. I'm like, are they saying journalism? Like, because people do go to school for journalism. So I wouldn't try to like say, oh, because I put a camera on, I equate to a journalist. So I was trying to differentiate between that. But apparently under Florida law, it sounds like YouTubers and bloggers and all that is just considered media. Like, there's no differentiation. So she's saying she's media. This gets on the record because now you get to add, we're at trial. And so they renew their motion to say it should be dismissed because I'll throw myself in there because I'm a YouTuber too, because I got a YouTube channel, but that she is media. If she is media, then they didn't follow the instruction that you are supposed to give notice. And so that is an issue of which was going on, and it happened. It was brought up, and then the defense said they wanted to wait till all the proofs were in before it was considered. And then it sounds like they are going to allow the jury to determine if she's media. And if she's determined to be media, it could affect her case in her favor. So there we go. So now let's go into, so the plaintiff, they rested at 9:50 a.m. So then we got into the defense. They called their case in chief, and they called Milagro. She gets in, she talks about her nicknames, Mia and Milagro and Lovely One and Miracle and all of the meanings of her nickname. She talks about her education, criminal justice. She has a husband. He's in the Army. And I guess he got deployed while she was in school for criminal justice. So she ended up having to transfer. So then she went to Sam Houston State and she took up victim advocacy. And then because I guess they didn't have, I think the main victim advocacy that she wanted to do, she ended up changing her major to psychology, and then she minored in criminal justice. So she said she had a couple brothers, and she had a brother with spina bifida, so he was sick all the time, and it was expected that he would only live to 9 years old. Um, and part of that is kind of what made her want to get into the advocacy, because she's seeing what people were going through, especially going through the stuff with her brother, because he was in the hospital all the time. She would see all the stuff people was going through, and so that kind of sparked the whole advocacy, the advocacy desire that she had. So then she says that also she was in the 6th grade, she almost got abducted, and she went and her grandmother advocated for her, and she went in and she did a sketch, and she was able to say who the abductor was, and apparently this abductor was still out there, and he was about to abduct the little boy, but because of her sketch they caught him. So all of this just played into what she wanted to do in life. She said she was raised by her mother until she was 5. Her mother was going to school for journalism at some point, but then she got in the videos and the clubs, and sounds like she ended up getting hooked on drugs, and then her mom came and got her. Her grandmother came and got her and took her up out of the mess, I guess, with what she was around. And so her grandmother came. Her mama got caught up in the lifestyle, and her grandma said she not safe. So she came and she got her. I think her mom, she said she got high one day. Her mom tried to commit suicide. And yeah, it was a lot going on. Sounds like it was a rough time for her when she was a child. But she did say her mother inspired her to do what she is doing today, because it's like she's honoring her, because her mother always wanted to do journalism. She said her daddy I think he was a pro football player, and he was more interested in sports, and he disregarded her. Her mama didn't want to take care of her. So her mother had to raise her on her own, and he is deceased now. And they asked her, well, how was your upbringing? And she said that she was 25% happy, laughing, music, partying. A party could get started at any time. She went on trips. She had Christmas. And then she said it was the other side. Like she said, her grandmother didn't play. My grandma was very strict, and she was very tough. She didn't get told I love you. So her grandmama just showed her, like, listen, you got a roof, you got food, you got clothes on your back. So you should know that I love you. So she didn't tell them that she loved her. And she said she took on a lot of responsibility with, like, her siblings or whatnot. I believe her brother that was sick, and she accelerated, but she still was in accelerated programs when she was in school. She did very well in school, and she still handled her academic business. She still had to make dinner for everyone. And she said her grandma talked to her just like she be talking on this here online. She said her grandma might be like, get your up and get ready for school, you dumb mother. She said her grandma would just be cussing and fussing and be like, why in the is my silverware not facing the same damn way? What the fuck is wrong with you? So that's kind of like how she was talking. She said one time she went outside and a neighbor gave her $1, and her grandmama whooped her and was like, don't take no money from him. So she was just saying, it was a rough, her grandma wasn't playing. She wasn't playing around, right? So then she said that in her neighborhood, she talking about it was nothing like coming home. Folks was playing spades and dominoes. And she was like, I don't know if y'all know about spades, but people get serious about their spades. It get real serious. And they would Jones, they would do a lot of banter. Like, you don't know what you doing. Look at them. You really don't know what you're doing with them shoes from last year. how they would just kind of, go in at each other and kind of crack on each other when they was at these gatherings that they had in the neighborhood. And she said folks was rough around the edges, but they all came together when it was not, when it was needed. Like they looked out and they protected people, but this was her, her upbringing. This is what she was around. You might get cussed out with your bent over shoes. But at the end of the day, we all looked out for each other. So they said, so you're accustomed to listening to strong language? She said, yes, I am accustomed to listening to strong language. And so they asked her, when did she start her show? She said she started online when her kids were small, and she tried YouTube, and she would do like reality and different news or whatnot, like critiquing and doing commentary on TV shows. And she just did it as a hobby. And then she said she saw the response that she got, and she was getting hundreds and thousands of views. So she was like, well, this is something that I can do and do it more substantial. So that's when they showed the exhibit that Mob Radio LLC, they showed the certificate of formation. And also they showed her, and she said that's like her birth certificate for her brand. And that was May 23rd of 2020. Then she has 2 trademarks, one for Milagro Grams, and that was April 19th of 2022, and one for Mob Radio, that was from June 8th, 2021. So she's showing the seriousness about how she took this as a business. So she said her platforms is YouTube, Twitch, Stationhead, Kick, Instagram, and Twitter. And she's used them since 2017 to 18-ish. YouTube, she has 77,000 people. Instagram, she has about 13. Wait a minute. Instagram blog, she has 13,000. Then she has her personal Instagram, which has 43,000. Twitter has 30,000. Kick has about 1,000, and Twitch has 25,000. Stationhead has 25,000. And she says she's on these platforms 5 days a week. Like this is her job. And she streams, of course, simultaneously. And she says she believes she's respected as a media person or reporter because of the regard that she is shown and the feedback she gets from, people on the internet. And she said even the Shade Room, and they put the post up where the Shade Room inboxed her. And the Shade Room, it was back in December 11th of 2019. They told them, listen, we got this connection with Spotify, and they wanted her to put her show on Spotify. So it was showing just how she was establishing how people respected her in this media space. And of course, they said, was this years prior to you knowing Tori? She said, yes, it was years prior to me knowing Tori. Then she said she was approached by Onsite with Ra Ali over on Stationhead. And she first was working with them, and she just had a feature where she would do their gossip. And then she was saying that after that, she ended up with her own segment. She had her own segment. Then I guess she was asked to be on the main platform and give her opinion on the main platform. And then she ended up being one of the first ones, just like Ra Ali, to actually have a contract with Stationhead. And so she talked about how she got with Ra Ali and that dude Emil, how she put him on. But we'll get into that later. So apparently Stationhead said, listen, Ra Ali talk highly of you. What we gonna do is you come over here on Stationhead, and we gonna watch and see what you do. And if you do your thing over here and we see how much audience you garner, then we're going to give you a contract. So that's how she got her contract. And they were the only 2 that have contracts, and she believes that they may be the only ones that ever had contracts. And she was doing the Stationhead about a year before she got to prove herself. And that's when she ended up with her contract. They said, well, did you get your station head because of your relationship with Tori? She's like, no, I got my station head because of my relationship with Ra Ali. So I see where she's going with this. She's gotten this because of relationships with other people and people seeing who she is and how she's great in this media space. And Tori did not benefit her like that, you know. So then she talked about the HBO documentary, and HBO, said that they wanted to do something special on Meg Thee Stallion. One side, they had a 2-day. One side was leaning towards Meg. The other side was leaning towards Tori. So she was on the second day, and she was on there as a reporter. And she was supposed to say what she saw at trial. And they said, well, did HBO reference you as a reporter? She said, oh, yeah. HBO referenced me as a reporter. So then she got into just what you do on YouTube, like how you have to, the aesthetics, the audio, the board, the modem. She said she paid $3,000 for the modem. She just talked about all the equipment, the aesthetics, everything she has to do in order to put on a show. So she spent over $10,000 in equipment. And she said she also uses, of course, her watermark for her content. And she says that on the video, they put up a video that she has, and it has a disclaimer. So she's saying, I do have a disclaimer that it comes on at the beginning that these is her opinions and they're not facts, and don't take them as facts. She also lets you know it's explicit content for specific audiences. She marks that it's for 18 years or older. Content is limited to adults, and also for people that want to listen to explicit content. So they showed an intro video which shows this disclaimer on it. So they played it. And then it shows like her bullet points, how she has her agenda and how she has hashtag trending topics. And she has the 3 trending topics. And then, of course, it has the warning again. It has the explicit content, viewer discretion advised. And then they were like, was Megan Peak listed in this content for the day? They was like, no, she's not. She's not listed. So showing, I don't just talk about her. I talk about other people. She says she works Monday through Friday. She gets notes she produces, and she's usually on for at least 4 hours. So she starts with worldly news, politics, latest on those topics, reality TV, fashion, and the biggest chunk is on entertainment news, commentary, live. And she basically follows the algorithm. She studies all the social medias, the reports, the articles, and they show a Twitter video when she was covering the Jacksonville shooting. I believe it was the Julio. No, I don't know, whatever his name is. So they were showing that she was covering that when they were the whole with the police scene, when they were about to do the press conference and stuff. And she was like, they said, what are you talking about here? She said, well, I'm talking about a rapper who was savagely murdered. And yeah, so then they took a break. And then I already told y'all they were talking about the media stuff. And let me see. They was trying to do a motion on the judgment. They were talking about that based on the information. I'll talk about that later. So then they asked her, we came back from the break, and they said, why are you doing commentary on the shooting? Why were you doing it on the shooting? She said, well, because it was a heinous crime and it garnered a lot of attention. So, of course, she's showing and establishing. I don't just talk about Meg. I have a whole show. I got a whole agenda. And she said, so does this align with you talking about, the most talked about topics at that time? She's like, yeah. So then it showed like the next topic. They kind of went through the whole video, what she talked about, where it was neighborhood talk. And they was talking about Diddy and the Kim Porter book. So she talked about that. Then it was Tiffany Haddish with the whole African, how she was walking through the grocery store, I guess, and she was shocked in Africa that they had a store with fresh fruit. She was talking about they asked her, like, she was going off, and they asked her, what you think about that? She said, well, I thought she was ignorant, like the fact she didn't think that they had, like, everything come from Africa. Like, what are you talking about? Like, they're a whole established continent. Why would she be this ignorant? So she was explaining that. Then it was like another clip. She talked about Jamal Warner, was talking about Malcolm Jamal Warner, I think, on one of the clips. And it was from like a clip from the Art of Dialogue, and they were talking about kind of the state of music, and she was talking about how the kids basically ain't got that good music now and all of that. Then it was the clip that day she was talking about Phaedra versus Dr. Heavenly and all of that. So they were just going through what she went through in that video. Then it was then it gets to a Meg Thee Stallion clip. So like, Meg wasn't on the agenda, but she ended up being talked about like over 2 hours in. So they were like, this wasn't even about her, was it? So they say Issa Rae brought Meg Thee Stallion out at some festival, and that was like, let me take that back. It was an hour and 36 minutes into the video. And so they kind of talked about that. And then they pulled up, it was the picture of her where it was like a tweet of Beat King or whatever his name is, that he was saying, people was like, why don't you, I guess he was asking questions, and somebody said, well, why don't you do a collab with Meg Thee Stallion? You guys are both from Houston. And he said, I've been asking Meg for 5 years so that she could do a collab, and she won't do a collab with me. She ain't messing with me like that. So Milagro was saying, listen, I'm gonna be real, I'm gonna be honest. I could understand why she don't want to do a collab with you. Like, you know what you did to her. And so then they pulled up the picture, so it gave context, because this was pulled up before and it wasn't the full context. So it showed a picture she posted of Meg, with a guy, and she was, towering over the guy, and he was kind of short, and it wasn't the most flattering picture. So she said, well, I understand why he doesn't want to work with you or whatnot. But then that's when they get into the whole where somebody was like, and y'all talking about I'm a fighter or whatever. So y'all talking about that I'm a fighter. No. So that was like the post where she was like, I ain't fighting that girl. If I gotta fight that girl, I have to pick up something and throw it at her. Anything not bolted down, I'm about to throw it at her, I had to hit her with my car and all of that. That was the context. It wasn't really like how it was pulled out where she just decided to rant and rave and talk about her. It was literally a topic. And then the dude mentioned something about her not wanting to collab. And then she pulls up the picture, I guess, to show why she was mad at him for what he put up. And then that's when she kind of was like, y'all talking about I want to fight her. I ain't about to fight her. Like, you see how big she is? And now she's talking about, I got to run that hoe. I have to run her over with my car. I ain't trying to act like I'm big and bad. I'm a regular size, biatch. I'm throwing everything but that's not bolting down, and I'm running. I'm throwing the car. She talking about shoes. She do that. I'm just gonna let it go. My whole body broke. That's what she said. She said, she come after me, I'm gonna get me a lawsuit. My whole body broke, y'all. That's just what it is. And they were explaining. She's like, did you say, like, can you explain that? And that's what she said. People was asking her about getting physical. And she was like, well, at that time, Meg is slimmer now, but at that time she was like 200 pounds. And she said, I didn't think that I could physically take someone that size. So that's why I was saying that. So then she moves on and she talks about Offset in this video. So that's 1 hour, 41 minutes and 48 cents. So 48 seconds. So she talked about them up until a point, and then it was like, I think 10 minutes, I think is how long she talked about Meg. So they were showing like, you ain't just talking about her, just going off and talking about her, are you? So essentially you talked about 10 minutes. That's out of a 2-hour video. And the content wasn't focused on her, and it wasn't even focused for an extended period of time. So then they asked her, well, how do you get your information? And she said, well, research, legacy media, court documents. She gets tips, blogs, articles. And they asked her, like, she pulled up the messages that she has from her hotline. And of course, she put Meg in there and all the people that was giving her information about Meg and said they had information. It didn't really have specific information in those messages she was pulling up. It just said, girl, I got the tea on Meg. Give me a call. Call me, Millie. I have an exclusive on Meg the Stallion. So all these people were like calling her hotline. And they were saying they had the exclusive, like begging her, call me, girl, please. I've been calling you since Thanksgiving. Can I ain't say Thanksgiving, but they were saying like they left messages before and she hasn't called them that. And she was like, she said she was not acting like a mouthpiece for Tory. People were coming at her with information. And she talks about what the audience wants to hear. So if they coming to her with the information, then she's talking about what her audience want to hear. So then she said the same with the deep fake video. She didn't seek it out. It was brought to her attention by her subscribers. So again, I already described the whole deep fake and how she was online. And she said while she was online, people was giving it to her and she was kind of looking at it in real time. So then they asked her, do you have a target audience? And she said, yes, people that can relate to where I'm from. People that can digest her. She feels like her people get her and they can digest her show, her slang, her vernacular, her speaking in a certain way. She says she got a potty mouth. She knows she got a potty mouth. And so she says it's explicit. They know it. And it's just people that like her content. And she said, she talked about Discord, that there's people that actually, you have to pay to be in a Discord. There's people that actually pay to have access to the content. So asked her how much she's getting paid on Station Head. She said $6,300 a month. They asked her how much she's getting paid on Discord. She said $1,000 a month. As I think she said it's like $5 per person. And they asked her when the first time your show spiked. She said it was around 2019 when she was doing her reviews. That's when and celebrity content. That's when it first spiked. She was doing love and hip hop. People loved her thoughts and her opinions. She said she didn't see an increase in her following based on Tory Lanez's commentary. She said some people were actually offended by her stance and she lost people. So people left because they didn't like how she was windmilling for them. And so, well, her stance, I don't want to say windmilling, but just her stance on him. And so she said she felt like she suffered the most for speaking on this in the way that she did in supporting him. So she felt like it was no benefit for her talking about him. They said, well, do you consider your audience a cult? It's all the mob people, my radio. Remember I told you, Mill said, do y'all like a cult? They said, do you consider them like a cult? She said, no, absolutely not. She said that her followers are engineers and doctors and lawyers. And, I think they just like that I read the comments out loud and they basically run how the platform goes. She said, I've never met anyone who is a cult leader who is being led by the actual following. So it's the opposite of a cult. Then they said, well, are there people that were close to Meg and Pete that watched you? And she said, yes, her friend Chelsea. So they pull up the text message of Chelsea like, girl, you so funny. I think your whole content is dope and all of that. So they pulled up her Instagram. Is this Chelsea? She said, yes. So then there was a picture that I was talking about earlier and they had several people on it. They had Kelsey, Chelsea, Meg was in the front, the Emilio Garcia. She named almost everybody in there. So Milagro knew who they were. I'm lame, so I didn't know who none of these people was for real. And so then they said, well, if you were talking bad about Meg, do you think that Chelsea, who was friends with her at this time, as you see in this picture, that Chelsea would have been a fan of your show and you're saying a bunch of bad things about her? And she was like, no, because apparently initially she would talk about her videos, and I guess she liked her. And so Chelsea was actually a fan. So it's like, no, she wasn't just dragging her, talking about her or whatnot. No, I don't think. If I was talking about her bad and she was still trying to be a fan of me, then she's not a good friend. And so then she talks about her personality online. She said her personality is exaggerated. She knows her show is vulgar. She has a potty mouth. She said, but it's funny. She has all these different, ways. She said um, if she were basically how she is on the stand right now, people wouldn't be watching her. They'd be thinking she's boring. So she not like that. She said she's entertaining. And so they said, well, are you like that all the time? She's like, no, when I'm not online, I'm a rational person, citizen in society, like everyone else. I have a husband, I have children, they want to do play dates. I have a parent teacher conference. She goes through all the things that a parent does. And she's like, what would I look like going around and just be acting like this just all the time? So then they said, well, is it easy for you for you to kind of change into this person online? And she said, well, really, it's just a combination of people of who I grew up with. So it's kind of easy. So remember, we go back to we playing cards, we jonesing, we dissing each other. We talking about your bent over shoes from last week. We talking about the grandma telling you to get your big ass up for school. So this is a combination of all these people. So she can go online, and this is what she's used to being around, and so she can be that. So yeah. So then she said she wanted to create something that was like home. That was her point. So when she filed, when she did her file, when she decided to do how she was going to be, or decide what she was going to do online, she said, well, I'm going to make this feel like home. So it's almost like we going to the family reunion barbecue and we just shucking and jiving. This is what we do online. So there's that. That's what I said. I was like, it seems like her online is a person, like a persona. When you got Beyonce talk about Sasha Fierce, like it just felt like to me, because of how she was on the stand, was just like totally different. I was like, I thought she presented very, very well when she was on the stand. I mean, I never thought like she a dummy. Clearly, she's not. I think that she evaluated things, or she looked at things at the trial and all of that. But when I saw her online, when I heard online, it was kind of a shock culture. Like for me, I was just like, oh, she going off. She like every other word. Can't put this on speaker. Got to put your earbud in. That's kind of like what it was. So yeah. So then they asked her about the post where she said about Megan lying about, or is she deceiving the courts again, or whatever, using the word courts. And she tried to say that what she meant, she didn't mean the court like the court we was in. When she says court, she thinks that means more so like the police, investigators, everything. It's not necessarily the court. I don't know about that one, because I'm like, courts is kind of what it is. Like the word means what it means. And you can say that you're a minor, you were, obviously she has a degree. So if you have a minor in criminal justice, you know what court means. But she said when she used the word courts in the tweet, that she meant it included everybody that's a part of this investigation. So then that's when she talks about the lawsuit with Amelia. And she said she filed a lawsuit. She said Emilio is a homosexual, and he said that he was in a vehicle and Meg was performing different sexual acts. Like, I guess she supposedly penetrated her friend. This is all alleged, okay? This is supposed to be the lawsuit. And this is what he was saying about her. And he filed, yeah, he said a whole lot apparently in that lawsuit. So then they asked her about the video. They put up the act video again where she's doing the interview, and she talked about the lies and the list of lies. And she said, well, I was referencing over the years. So they said, well, what are some of the lies that occurred before trial? She said, well, and this was her thing. This was her time to shine and put out everything that she felt like that Meg was lying about. So she was like, she lied about she lied to the police. She lied to the hospital staff. She lied on television. So they said, okay, let's go one by one. So she said they said, where you get this information from? And she said, well, she got the police officer, I guess, the police department information originally from like national reports like TMZ, CBS. They reported about her stepping on glass, and then came out and that was a lie. Then she said a police report, she actually got it from Fed from YouTube, and he said he got it he has a YouTube, and he has his name is Myron Games, and he has a co-host as well, but she couldn't remember that name. And I guess they alleged they had some connections to the police department, and that was difficult for them to get it, but they got the document, and they basically walked their viewers through it on his channel. So she's saying that's where she got that from. She says she did not receive it from Tory. She did not receive it from his daddy, Sunstar. Didn't receive it from the attorneys. That's not where she got it from. Then she goes back in and said that Megan lied to the hospital. She lied to EMS. She seen she had a knot on her head. She's sitting up, and she still reiterated that she stepped on glass. Pulled up. So again, she got a lot of this information from TMZ and other sources. She never got it from Tory. She said it was Megan who said she stepped on glass. I got it from Megan. The glass, I got it straight from her. She the one that said it. So then she said, I'm watching national television, and we got Gayle King, and Gayle King is the GOAT. That's what she said. She wanted to go. She wanted the big ones over there on national, like the whole Good Morning America vibe and all of that. And it says that she gonna tell her side of the story. So she had another opportunity for her to get on there and tell the truth about this shooting. And what she do? She get on there and lie again. I'm like, okay, this really did it for me. This girl just be lying. Lie talking about she mentioned something about like, of course, the whole sleeping with Tory, but she mentioned something else again. I'm sure it's further off in my notes. So then she said about the whole fight. She said it wasn't a fight, but there was a witness that saw two women fighting and said the tall woman and the shorter woman, and they described her as kicking, said basically there was a call talking about that it was a fight that took place. And she said that contradicted what Meg was trying to say. So she must have said that on Gayle King, because I think that's what she said too. And then she said they went to move on, and she said, can I tell you what else I feel like she lied about on Gayle King? Let's go back to that, okay? She said she also said she did not sleep with Tory. So she talked about the fight at first. And I guess when she said she didn't fight her, she felt like that was contradictory to the testimony. And then they were going to move on. And she's like, no. I need to talk about this. She said she slept with Tory, and she did not sleep with Tory, and she did. Then she said, they said during the trial, she said, oh, it was more contradictions. She said it was not a fight again, but it was contradicted by the testimony of Sean Kelly. Then she said EJ, the stylist, Meg said she left with Tory because EJ wasn't there. She said that EJ took the stand, and he was like, I was there, and I guess she wanted to ride with him. She could have rode with him, but she was adamant. She was adamant about EJ not being there when she was on the stand. But EJ like, nah, she could have rode with me, and that kind of made me mad that she was saying like I wasn't there, like somehow like I kind of left her there or whatnot. Then she mentions the nerve damage and said, listen, The doctor said it wasn't no nerve damage. She said it was nerve damage. And she said, I got all this information from the trial. So that was not from Tory. Then she said after the trial, she get the affidavit from Jaquan Smith. And in the affidavit, it says that the ladies were fighting, that Meg was arguing with Kelsey, and that was basically the crux of what his argument was. Now, in the affidavit, because I think it was paragraph 13, they kept going over about the fight. So in 14, I guess Jaquan doesn't say he saw who actually did it. He says that he alleges Kelsey had a gun in her hand in the affidavit, and Tory came to try behind her to try to get the gun, and then I guess the gun goes off, and then but he didn't actually see who shot or pulled the trigger. So that's I think that was like paragraph 14. Mm-hmm. And so she said she felt like the affidavit for Jaquan should have been considered, and it was not considered. So then she says, they said there are other people that said that she lied about the shooting too as well. And so, of course, she says academics, Joe Buttons, she said they still say they don't believe her. Then she said Drake, Nicki Minaj, and your everyday people. People over here in this chat. Talking about people just say that they don't believe her. They said her own friends. She said her own friends did diss tracks. Ex-boyfriends said you need to get help. They've called her disgusting. She said every time I've tried to give her grace in different areas, in one area, something else come out. And they said there's a lot of people that's outside, of her circle that have talked about her. So they asked, do Drake listen to you? She said, no, I don't think Drake listened to me. I wish he did, though. But no, I don't think he listened to me. And then they said, well, does Nicki Minaj listen to you? I don't think she listens to me. So then she basically said the whole world had something to say about this. Like this was something that was trending and a hot topic in the hip hop community. And she's not aware of these heavy hitters that I guess are if they're watching her or not. They said, did anyone ever tell you that Meg's feelings were hurt about what you were saying? She said, no, I wish they had, though. Did anyone ever tell you that she was suffering from PTSD because of your content? That she suffered from PTSD? She was like, no. Nobody on her team ever called and said, stop talking about her. She's never gotten a cease and desist. She said that she gave example of someone she talked about and put a picture up, and they contacted her and was like, girl, can you please take that down? Because that's a very unflattering picture of me. And she was like, she took it down. So she's like, if she would have called me and told me that it was bothering her and she had all these things that were affecting her, I would have took it down. She said, they didn't even contact me and tell me nothing. She said, I wish somebody would have said something. I never knew there were any issues. And she said she didn't intentionally. They asked her if she said anything. Did she intentionally cause her some type of PTSD or stress? She said, no, I didn't intentionally say anything to cause her PTSD. Basically, this is just a show. Doing it for entertainment. Then they pull up like a text where apparently it was between her and Sunstar, and they were talking about that Tory's project was being released that Friday. And I think that he was like, I think it would be good to do an interview. So they were trying to set up this interview that it would be a good look. And she said, we'll do it before so it doesn't look like I'm trying to slight her. So apparently Meg must have had something going on. So of course they used that to say like she was considering her even when she was trying to come out and help him with his or talk about, I don't know about help him, but talk about his new song that was out. And she was considering him and how it would affect her release and all of that if she came out with the interview and all of that. And then they go into the deep fake when she do the video and she's like, bitch, I know this dumb and ain't put nothing like this out. So she was asking, where is it? Send me the link. Was it on her live? And she said she was actually on live for 4 hours. So she was on her way getting off before they sent her this link. She was on her way up off of there anyway. And so they was telling her that it was a sex tape leak. She said she had no reason to believe that it was not Miss Pete. And she said it showed, like on the audio, she was like, oh, I may have found it. And they're showing like her reaction when she's looking at it. OMG. When she saw the video. And they said, what did you mean by that? And she said, I was like, what the hell was I looking at? I was just shocked. And it looked like Miss Pete to me. And so she's asking, you know, is this AI? This has got to be AI, because I know this BITCH cannot be this dumb. But I don't know. It doesn't look fugazi. I said, well, what does fugazi mean? Oh, it means fake. So they asked her, what are you saying to your audience? She said, this better be something else. She said, because Megan had been caught up, had been through a lot, and this would just be something else for her to be going through. She had been through so much, and so she said, I would hope she wouldn't put herself in this type of situation. And she said the video looked like two men, and she like, oh, this better be fake. This can't be true. But she's like, but it looks so much like her. And then she was like, and then, you know, I'm thinking when you look at her, because I'm like, she thinking she is promiscuous. She did, you know, she does all this twerking on men, and her twerking almost looked like it could be a porno with clothes. And she talks about the JJs all the time. So I don't know, this might really be her. And she was like explaining how her videos and stuff, how they are. She was like, what's disturbing about, you know, she talked about, like, again, I told you all before, all the similarities of why she thought that it was real. And so she said, they said, what else are you talking about her? She said, oh, this was a part of my investigation. I was analyzing it for myself. And they said, well, what other steps did you take? She said, well, I went online and I saw that it was posted days before and there was a lack of response. Like it had been on there for a couple of days and you ain't get a response, I guess, from Meg or her team. So it wasn't like anybody trying to debunk it. And so she looked at the comments and enough people thought that it was her. So that's how she fact checked, I get to try to investigate and see if it was real or not. So then she said, well, I put up another exhibit. We decided it wasn't her. That's why it got deleted. She deleted and she went, and I guess y'all, the people that are in the audience, they said, we don't think it's her. So she said she deleted it, and she deleted, I guess, whatever you do on Twitter where people can go look at your likes. She deleted that as well. And I think she unliked it. She had liked it and she unliked it. And she said she moved on. And they said, well, since you deleted it, does that mean that you knew that it was AI? And she said, well, personally, I believed it was Miss P, but it wasn't worth harping on it. So she's still saying she believed it was her, but it just wasn't worth, continuously talking about it. And so that's when she started talking about how she presents online very suggestive. She popularized twerking, which is centered on your behind. You can see the prints of her vajayjay on her videos. Looks like almost you're doing it on your videos. She says there was one video and literally she stripped down from her clothes. The song Plan B, I guess she stripped down naked. So I ain't heard none of these songs. I ain't watched not one of these videos. She said you saw her body, her behind. They talked about thigh-ish. Was very sexual, twerking. I guess a man comes on the video and he kind of pleasuring himself in the beginning. And then at the end, it's a vajayjay on his face or something. I said, what? I am officially old, guys, because I was like, well, what are we saying right now? I have turned it to my mom. Like, what is happening? So yeah, she was describing these. Yeah. That's kind of what she was saying. So then it was a post, I guess, where somebody was talking about her putting it down, taking it down or something. And she was like, basically, I guess they were saying she compromised because people are mad at her because she brought attention to it and then she took the likes down, or she said that, she tried to take it down and she was like, and that's not illegal, so suck it. Yeah, I took it down. Get over it. So then they talk about, now this was kind of funny. I ain't gonna lie. I didn't know. So I told y'all there's a screenshot they keep showing that says recently deleted messages. And so I explained to you all that she kind of comes behind the eight ball because the judge has allowed them to have an adverse inference to say that the deleted text, that there were going to be some, or they shall just assume that they would be negative against her and, and for Megan because these deleted tweet. But I told you there is one part that says Sunstar Peterson. It says recently deleted. It has Sunstar Peterson. 4 messages are deleted. Then it was one called Nigga Shore, and that has 20,457 deletions. Then it was a number that was on there with no name, and it had 34 messages. So all these are deleted. So of course it's like they keep throwing around that she deleted 20,000 messages, and Milagro's like, listen, I ain't even had no 20,000 messages from these people. So when you look at that Ninja Shore, then that sounds like that may be where these messages lie. So then they told her to explain what is Ninja Shore. Okay, what is it? So she said, well, there was a popular show called Jersey Shore. And so this kind of played off the whole Jersey Shore thing. So it was a group chat with all of her friends. Because I was wondering, I'm like, who calls this Ninja Shore? Like, why is that even a day? So she said that is where she got it from. So they asked her, they said, were any of these texts that were deleted, the messages, were they related to the case, the criminal case, or anything? She was like, no. They claim that you intentionally deleted 20,000 messages. And were those Ninja Shores? Is that a part of those 20,000 messages? She was like, yes. She said, I don't have 20,000 messages between Sunstar and Tori. I don't have that. Then said, what about this 475 messages that have a number? So she said, I don't have anything. I don't have anything to do. Like, essentially, this is probably a name of somebody who done gave something, but it didn't even have a name. So she's like, I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that's about. So yeah. So then there was a lunch break because they started arguing this motion again because they're trying to get some type of, let's see. There are different motions. Um, and some stuff they wanted to talk about, and they talked about that gag order too around that time. So it was lunchtime and they had the issues with that. And then Milagro continues again. I told y'all this was a long day, honey. And I was cold. I was freezing. It was a long day. It started being repetitive. I started seeing the same text. I'm like, can we wrap this up? Your girl trying to go on ahead and go to Orlando. Okay, we need to wrap this up. But now I'm invested and I gotta be here. They said, you seen videos of Miss Pete drinking? Milagro said, yes, plenty. She said she heard, I guess there was a vlog that she had at some point, and she said at one time, this is Meg talking, she said the first time, I guess when she started drinking, she had 10 shots. Another time she was in a car, and I guess it was with Trey Songz, and they driving in a car, and Trey Songz, I guess, kept giving her shots, and at that time she was cool with Kelsey, and Kelsey was kind of telling them to stop giving her the drinks. So then they showed the video, and I remember this video because I don't know if I saw it at the trial, but it was a video that I was familiar with. I was like, okay, I've seen this before. So in this video, it's the pool video that some of you guys have probably seen. Did y'all hit the like button and subscribe? Thank you. In the video, it was Meg is in the pool. She got a bottle in her hand. She drinking. Justin, which I guess is her bodyguard, that's the person that Kelsey sent the text to. He's in the pool. He got a GUN while he's standing there behind in the pool. Everybody drinking. It was just so they showed the video. So she was talking about that as well. So she pulled that up to show, the little drinking and all of that stuff. And she said, well, they asked her, well, what effect did that video have on you, Miss Cooper? And she said it had a major effect on me. She said, because I'm looking and I'm like, they saying he's drunk and he's the bodyguard. He got the gun. She's drunk. The security, he got the gun, but you afraid because you got shot. Like, it just seemed real contradictory to me. So they asked somebody, her former bestie in mod, Emil Briggs or King Noor King or whatever his name is, and they said he testified. You remember that? Yeah, he testified that you basically go and you seek out other people's address. Is that true? She said, no, it is not true. Have you ever done that before? No. So she said she don't be doxing people. Have you ever sold porn? No, I haven't done that. Said, well, why do you think, what? So you're saying what he said is untruthful? Yeah, well, how do you know that? Well, I know that because I know what I did and I didn't do. And I ain't do that. So then that's when they got into why he left on site and said it was because she personally was the one that went to Rye. Apparently he wanted to be an actor at some point. And so she said, oh, this might be an opportunity for my friend. So she personally went to him and they gave him a chance. And he got upset with her because he was trying to make it seem like the girl online, you guys heard this, Bunny was actually a woman, and they found out it wasn't a woman, it was a guy. And then he got upset with her because he wanted her to lie about it. And she was like, she didn't say anything. She thought she was being a friend by not just saying anything about it. So he got pissed off. They still kind of worked together after that. And then they're working and it got a little contentious. So they're on this on site together. And then after a while, she told Rod, like, he gotta go. So you got him fired? I did. So then they showed the picture of the house, and they showed the picture of the house that she looked up, and it was supposed to be Meg's house, right? We kept hearing about that. So they pull up the property, and it has T. Ferris's name on it. So they said, do anyone else reside with him? She said she didn't know. So they asked her, well, why did you take the picture? She said, because the lack of funds. So she talked about her previous attorney had her do a lot of legwork because she didn't have money to go up against a machine like what she going up against. So the lawyer told her basically that it shouldn't be brought there. And so it was like a venue issue, which is a legal issue on whether we're in the proper venue. I think we talked about that before. And so the lawyer was like, you need to find out where she actually lives, because it probably should not be brought in Florida. Because as y'all know, like I said, this deep fake statue is brand spanking new. And when it first got filed and I was looking at it, I'm not going to lie, I was like, what is this? Like, how you suing somebody for this? And then I looked up the statue. I'm like, oh, okay. So this was literally newly enacted. And so I think they were feeling as if she filed it in Florida because she knew this statue existed. And so, they knew the statue existed, but she wasn't really living in Florida, I think is what they was trying to get at, try to figure out where she actually was living at. So then they said, well, how did you find out about like where she living, that Florida was even connected to her? And she said every year she, people go and vote, and she showed a sticker or whatever, I guess, where she voted. And then she said she looked it up to see her voter registration. And that's how she found the address. So that's supposed to be how she found the address to T. Ferris's house. Well, the house that's in T. Ferris, but that's the address she used to vote. She said she only sent the photo to her previous lawyer. She didn't send it anywhere else. She sent it to Rhonda Dixon, who is out of California. She sent it via email. The date of the email was May 29th of 2025. She said she was walking out the door when they said, you got served. So she said that's when she found it. She said she was literally going on a trip, and that's when she got served. So then they said, well, is Tori paying for your legal services? She said no. So she gave the background, and some of you guys probably remember this because I do. So once Milagro got sued, probably within 48 hours, I'm going to say, Unite the People, which again is the nonprofit. Caesar is the CEO. He is the one that was representing Tori on the appeal and the habeas. He did a post, and that was also read because he read it to Tori on the prison line. He did a post basically saying, we are representing Milagro grounds, and if anybody else feels like their freedom of speech is being quailed, we'll represent you too. Now, I'm not going to lie. When I saw the post, I'm like, don't they do post-conviction work? But I felt like, this is my opinion, I felt like that it was being put out there almost like a clout chasing situation. That's how I took it. I'm like, why would you? And y'all don't do civil. So anyway, nonetheless, so she said they had a pro bono agreement and they were supposed to do it for free. And in the agreement, I guess it said that they would get whatever, according to her, this agreement sounded to me like a contingency agreement, which wouldn't make sense to say that, well, almost like once you recover or if you recover, then we'll get our money at the end. Like, it didn't really make any sense to me. Like, because this is not where you going for a slip and fall or something, and at the end, they're going to have to pay you $50,000 and your lawyer can take a third or whatever your percentage is. This was literally, when you get sued for defamation, typically you're going to have a lawyer that is going to require a deposit, and they charge you per hour because you're defending it. You're not going to get money. Like, you're not suing anybody to get money unless you're somehow countersuing. But anyway, she did say the contract was saying basically we'll get it at the end if we win or whatever. And so then she said they're like the middleman. So they were going to find her an attorney. They was going to do all of that. So she said what Unite the People did, and well, what Caesar did, because he was kind of sounds like he was the person that was the middleman, the liaison. They're from California. So they had to find somebody in Florida so that they could pro hoc into Florida. So apparently she wasn't supposed to pay the lawyer anything. Okay. She's thinking that they're going to pay for whatever. Caesar, I guess, had to pay the lawyer, according to her, here in Florida. And then he realized this civil game is not cheap. And so he essentially told her, baby girl, you on your own. You gonna have to come up with some money. So she said that she started some type of funding, Giftify, whatever she started. And she said that she asked for support from the public. And they raised like 18,000. She gave like 11,000 or some portion to Caesar to pay the lawyer. I guess the lawyer was calling from here trying to get the money, and Caesar gave him 11,000. The lawyer hit her up like, where the rest of the money at? Because I guess Caesar only gave her part of the money. Then I think eventually he did get all of the money, but it was some back and forth about the money. Then the lawyer was like, listen, I don't want to work with Caesar no more. So she said she'll pay the lawyer directly. She said, let me pay the Florida lawyer directly. And she said she was still short a couple $1,000. And Caesar basically was like, I ain't doing this. I ain't about to be doing this. So again, local counsel was like, I don't want to deal with Caesar allegedly. I'm going to withdraw. Caesar, so what we going to do? We don't even have like our local counsel what we need. And Caesar was like, don't worry about it. I'm going to get us a lawyer. And this is all alleged because that's what she testified to. I'm going to get another lawyer. And then she said, next thing I know, we got the local counsel that withdrew, and then Unite the People that withdrew too. So she said, I'm out here on my own. So I guess she took what she had left. She raised about $40,000 in her funding. Before I think somebody got the pay snatched down. So she said she ended up getting an attorney. And she said that attorney, she had the Dixon lady. I think she's trying to withdraw now, the one from California. She was on it as well. Said they consistently needed money, thousands and thousands that she didn't have. And it was mainly because they were doing motions, which is civil. Like with civil, sometimes they will paperwork you. They will subpoena you. You will be doing depositions. It's all about they be racking up them bills. And so civil, that's where civil is different. It's a lot of responses, a lot of again, when you're participating in discovery, it's a lot of motion practice. It's all of that. So if you get somebody that is charging per hour, and depending on what their rate is, you can run up a bill really, really quick. Like you'll turn it up and you're like, I spent $10,000 this month because of the hours. And so they kept paperworking them, giving them a lot of paper, like respond to this, respond to that. We having a hearing, do this. So in order, then they were like, they got an expert, so we need an expert, which is usually how it happens. Like it should be where if they have an expert to evaluate Meg, then they should have an expert to evaluate that'll probably say she ain't got no PTSD or whatever they're going to say, or to support their position that she wasn't emotionally distressed. Or they may have said, and I'm just saying that, I'm not saying whether she got it or not, I'm just saying what an expert will probably do. Or they may say something like, maybe it was other people that contributed to it. I asked her questions about this person and that person because the defense will probably say, well, would Drake play a role? What about Nicki Minaj playing a role? Like they would get more information than perhaps her expert may have had. So it'd be like a battle of the experts, and then you get the jury to believe what they're going to believe. So her attorney was telling her, we don't need an expert if they got an expert. And she's like, listen, I ain't got this type of money. So then I guess Rhonda Dixon isn't from Florida either. She's from California, so she had to find another lawyer. Then she said station head fired her. So she was paying whatever she had out of her pocket. She said her account now is in the negative $10,000. And she's like worrying about how she gonna pay these fees. She said, and then people was telling her that they were helpers. So people started helping her, I guess, online. So she was like, Tori didn't pay nothing when it came to these fees. I'm in a negative right now. So then I guess she ain't appreciate Rhonda Dixon. So I don't know what happened with that, but she ended up getting fired. So then she retained the guy she has now, Jeremy. She retained him back in June or July. And then she said she retained one of the women, because there's two women there. One of them got retained 2 weeks ago. And then the other woman, she just got retained, I think she said the Friday before last. So they said, well, did Unite the People fund anything? She said, I don't know anything about Uniting the People funding anything. I don't think they funded anything. They said, did Sunstar pay your fees? No, Sunstar ain't pay your fee. I guess she said, y'all hear all this? This rigmarole I've been through trying to get me a lawyer. And so that was the direct examination. So they get on the cross examination. So they throw up the video with the Coolio. I don't know how to mess his name up. The rapper that got unalived, and she was doing a commentary on it. They started out, and that was what was trending in the news. So they started asking her questions like, did you make friends to any of the victims that was a part of it? Did you make friends with the person that's accused of the defense, like as one of the defendants? Did you make friends with them? She's like, no. Did you have anyone in their family fly you to Miami? No. Did you get involved with any witness intimidation videos when it came to them? And she's like confused by this line of questioning, I think. But the point was, you didn't interject yourself in this case like you did with Tori. Like Tori is a whole different monster. So that's what they was trying to, I guess, elicit. Because she's like, I don't get what you saying. What do you mean did a video? Huh? So they was just trying to pull out all the things that she had done that was different than your regular reporting when it came to Tory Lanez. So then they asked him, did you read a memo that was put out by Tory's people? And we all were looking at each other like, what was his problem? We were all looking at each other like, what they just say? But I believe they said something about alcohol. So apparently there was some type of memo put up, and they were trying to mitigate his damages. And so they mentioned, or mitigate like the sentencing for sentencing purposes. And they said something about, in there, the consideration was something about an alcohol problem. And so they asked him, did you know that? But you putting that on Meg though. But they was actually, it's supposed to be some type of consideration or whatnot. She's like, no, I don't know I don't know if I read it. I don't know. And then they said, apparently, they said, did you pay? You said you considered all information, right? Did you consider the information from Justin? Wasn't Justin supposed to testify that Tory admitted that he shot her? And she was like, well, Alexander Bott, he made reference in his opening statement to it, but Justin didn't want to show up. And it seemed like witness intimidation to me with Justin. I mean, because why wouldn't he show up? And it's different than Jaquan, because Jaquan did an affidavit and it was under oath, and all this stuff is, we learned that this is what Justin was supposed to say, but Justin didn't even show up. So why are we even considering him? So no, not really. So they was pulling up like, don't say you was considering everything when it was other things, other people and other items that should have been considered. But she compared that to Jaquan, because Jaquan actually did an affidavit. So Then they showed how she was trending at number 10 when this lawsuit happened. And she was saying, oh, and people say they don't know who I am. Y'all know who I am. Look at me. I'm trending. I'm number 10. This lawsuit, I'm trending in the United States. As you know, she understood it that she was going viral. And she was saying, Meg said, I'm a sue. Doesn't matter. I'm still going live. Be for effing real. Y'all so dumb. I have you hoes so bothered. These hoes are pathetic and weak to me. So they playing like these videos and stuff of different rants and stuff that she was having. She said whatever. And she said what she meant was whatever lawsuit is filed, it's not going to stop her. That's not all that she talk about. She talk about other people. That's not her only content. And then they asked her about the court process. Like, you do know that when it comes to court, you have to have reliable evidence and be able to show that it's reliable. That's why some of that information you talking about ain't come in. Do you know anything about the reliable evidence? So you never thought that some of these things that you think is so interesting and some of these things that you think is so great, like why wasn't allowed to be in? Why it wasn't considered admissible? So then they said, so you're trying to allege that you just make a bunch of questions. You make questions, that's all. You pose questions, that's all that you do. So do you think you asking people questions really draws people in? You think that's what draws people in? And she said, no, I believe I draw people in. It's me. I draw people in. It's not the questions, it's me. And then she said, I guess it was a video, another audio they put up where she said she was minding her business and she got an email saying she was being sued. And it had a picture that was attached to it that was saying Ninja Girl on it. I guess that's what she called herself. So it was on there. And they said, but you just testified that when you were served, you was running out of the door and you got served. So basically, why does email say you just got an email telling you that you got sued? So then they show her where she went online to post about it and she was saying, y'all been waiting. Did y'all bust y'all nut waiting on me to come on to talk about this lawsuit? And that's what she's talking about. We up here trending. We trending in the US. You know, why these hoes acting like they don't know me? They know who I am. Said now all these people coming out the woodwork and they all want to celebrate. They trying to accuse me of trying to harass her. Why did Freddie Gibbs' girlfriend? She said, I guess she had something of his behind. She said a-ho. And she said she posted that. And I mean, she reposted that too. She said it's no vendetta. Like when she posted whatever she posted, it wasn't really no vendetta. This is what she does. She reposted some of the stuff that's trending. She said that's the culture. When celebrity news goes out, it goes viral. She said she talked about Erica Banks being naked in her OnlyFans. So don't make it like I just came after Meg. We have a culture of highlighting this type of stuff within our culture. She mentioned Alexis Sky putting cucumbers in her private part. So this all on, she's showing all the things that she's done that seem sexual in nature. I guess to show like Meg wasn't targeted. This is what she does. And then, of course, she was saying before she didn't know that this was bothering Meg. She didn't know anything. But apparently there was an article that came out around the trial or during the trial, and it was from BET, I believe, and her name was in it. And they were saying like Meg's lawyer was exploring legal actions, and Milagro's name was actually, I think she was mentioned in this article. That they said they're currently flagging social media posts for abusive content at that time. So I presume they were using that to show, like, you made it seem like you didn't know that you were affecting her, but literally you posted this article where they were talking about how, because of all of this hate that was going on, that her legal team was exploring all their options. And then they put up another audio where she was basically saying she don't have anything to worry about. Daystar hasn't given her a dime. Y'all stupid. I have a record of commentary on Megan. And they said, but didn't you said on here that Daystar ain't gave you nothing, but didn't you testify that Sunstar twice sent you a Zelle? So how you saying that he didn't give you nothing when you didn't testify twice that he gave you a Zelle? And then they pull up again the act video. That's why I said some of this stuff started being redundant. Like, we get it, guys. We get it. So they pull up the act video, and when she's doing the interview, and she was like, you accuse her of being a liar on here, right? And you said it, like you said you believe her that she's a liar. She said Meg being a liar is one thing. What she said on the stand is different. So they said, do you have any admissible proof that Meg is a liar? Milagro says she's living proof. So what I will say is, on cross-examination, Milagro was getting a little, she was getting a little tense, a little combative too. It was a little back and forth when she said some things that I was like, okay. Do you have any admissible proof that Meg's a liar? So I think she's living proof. She goes on about how she has all these contradictory statements. And they was like, this was in closing argument, right? The jury got all this information you talking about, right? And the jury still, he threw this whole dog ate my homework defense. That's what the lawyer called it. The dog ate my homework defense, and he still was found guilty. See, I understood that he was found guilty. I understand that. They said, can you prove that Tory did not shoot Meg? And so, of course, it's all the information you guys have heard, all the different issues that she feels like it was a little fishy when it came to it. And then towards the end, when she said it, she said, first of all, it took them 2 days to deliberate. So clearly they was back and forth. There must have been some type of tug of war. They must not have just believed it was that. They was deliberating for a while. So that basically that means something. Then she said, then Christmas was coming. So they was like, they was probably basically, they was ready. Are you saying that they found him guilty because Christmas was coming? You think they found him guilty because Christmas was coming up? It's like, no, I'm just saying that was a part of what was happening. So then they go into like, do you understand the difference between reliable, admissible evidence and gossip? She's like, yes. Unreliable information does not become a part of the court process. She said, have you ever heard of a corrupt court? Listen, ma'am. No, he didn't say ma'am, but he was like, aside from you stating about the Black oppressed people and the defendant and the corrupt, relating the defendant to like the oppression of Black people, because she kept saying about Black people being wrongfully convicted the whole time, a lot of times, and it happens every day as far as exonerations. She said, in the corrupt courts, What else you got? What else do you have besides that you feel like that black people essentially get oppressed every day through the system, and you feel the court, the corrupt court? She said, I'm sorry, you think you get tired of hearing of black issues. You don't want me to talk about that? I'm so tired that I'm sorry that you're tired of hearing about black issues. So they said, are you saying that the judge was corrupt in that case? She said, no, I'm not saying that he was corrupt. There was an issue with a picture that came out. And apparently this picture was one that was on the screen, and they tried to establish the foundation, but it was not in their joint exhibit list. So it wasn't on the list, and Milagro's team caught it. So they was like, objection, this is not on the witness list. They've done that a couple of times, of which it was not on the witness list. Meg's team is alleging that it was four different exhibits that were deleted out, like towards the bottom or cut off. But yeah, there were objection. That's not on the exhibit list. So they didn't. I was able to peer through and kind of see what it was. But yeah, it doesn't sound like the judge is gonna let it in, because then they said when they talked about it, they saw the picture last night, and I was just like, no, that's why we got exhibit lists. We not about to do that. I'm not about to just tell you all of a sudden you going to fish and find, which is interesting because it means that y'all kind of still think that they were kind of. Meg's team to me were very relaxed. They were like, no redirect. And I don't know if it was the not thinking that Milagro's team was going to come in like with the 1-2s or whatever it was. I don't know what it is. But it seems like they were trying to look to try to maybe strengthen it a little bit, strengthen their case. But that's just my opinion. So then there was another audio where he was saying where she was saying that Meg was about 1,000 feet away from her. And when Sunstar first called her and was like, he started out like, this is what happens. And so she said, I went and got my notepad, and I was like, well, I'm going to type this word for word. I ain't going to remember have to remember this, but my memory, I'm writing everything. He about to tell me what happened. So this is supposed to be the first conversation. And he was like, she said, basically, my word is my bond. Ain't no person that's going to tell if you're my source. If people think that you're going to tell what they say, because he said it was off the record. So she wasn't going to immediately put it down, but she was going to make sure she wrote it down verbatim. So when she decided to give the public this information, she was going to have it as accurate as possible. And so they said, did he say that Tory shot Meg in that conversation? She was like, no. Did he say Kelsey shot Meg in that conversation? No. So did he tell you who shot who in that conversation? Anybody shoot anybody? She was like, no, he stopped like right before it came to the shooting part, or who shot who or whatever. And they were like, the attorney said, you don't think that that's strange that he's calling you to give you guys are supposed to talk and give information about, you're getting information about this shooting, but he stops when you talk about the shooting. You don't think that's a bit strange? But you would agree that one thing he didn't just say is Tory didn't do it, right? And she was like, well, the headlines of my interview that I did, he was saying that his son was innocent, that he didn't think. They said, oh, he said he doesn't think his son did. He didn't think that his son did it or whatever. So the headline was that he said he thought his son was innocent. It's like, but he thinks his son's innocent. So we talking about, if you have any real information. So the headline was, my son is innocent. Said, did he factually say he didn't do it? Don't you think that if he had facts and he can come to the court and say, listen, I didn't do it, and this is my solid proof, that it would have been done? The case would have been over with? You don't think that? Do you think if he really had facts like that he didn't do it, that he would have at least testified at his own trial? She said, I can't speak to him not testifying. You know how our culture is. Our culture is you can't be snitching. our culture would want him to be quiet. Especially, and he was like, the Lord, when asked about whether you shot somebody, the culture will want you not to say that. I mean, that's just the way our culture is. It's like, and then she said, well, he really ain't have to come out and say nothing because Meg put her foot in the mud and people didn't believe her anyway. So he really had to come out and say nothing because the public kind of was seeing through it and they felt like Meg had already messed up. So they wouldn't believe her anyway. So he really ain't have to come out and say nothing. And so they said, so Tory wouldn't go and take the oath and swear to tell the truth. But Meg went and took the oath and she was on the stand, right? She said Meg didn't tell the truth. So you put a lie out. What is your evidence? I've repeatedly said all the contradictory things of what, about what is out there. So you go through, you guys heard the contradictory things over and over again. Said you labeled her a perjurer based on that. And she said, I just posed the question. Then they said, do you tell your kids what you do for a living? Objection. Relevance. Now y'all open the door. Y'all start talking about what she does with her kids and all. So she said, well, do you tell your kids what you do for a living? How old are your kids? She's like 12 and 13. They're preteens. Did you show them that cat video of, Tory and the horse leg and all? Did you show them that video? No, they're not on social media. They're too young. I think they're too young to be on social media. Are you going to tell them that to say that this is you that launched this attack against this woman? It was objection. It was sustained. So they pull up an Instagram message from December 13, 2022. And that was Tory asking for her number. So that was during the trial. So he asked for her number. Then they pull up another video of day 2 of the trial where they asked, it was something about Kelsey. So I think it was like the day before or something when she was about to testify. It's like, well, were you convinced that Kelsey was bribed? And Milagro was like, no, I didn't think she was bribed. I thought she was afraid. So her changing everything was not because she felt she was bribed. She felt like Kelsey was afraid. She said nobody has proved that Tory has paid these people to bribe them. It's not a fact, it's speculation. All of it is speculation to give reasonable doubt. Then they said you sat with the family. Like, why would you sit with the family? Like, if it's such a separation, with your reporting. And she said, well, I sat with the family because I needed a seat until I got my media pass. So you got a plane ticket from Miami, is that right? So, because they went through all the stuff that she got. And she was saying it's customary that they fly you in. They do all that when people want to do the interview, want you to do their interviews or whatever. And it's also customary the pictures that she took with Sunstar because the host typically takes pictures with the guests. She said, I only got $3,000 and it was over a certain period of time. I told y'all one was a birthday gift for me. One was for my kids. Something was for media, for some type of marketing. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I paid more than $3,000. $3,000 is not a lot of money. I paid, my dog was $3,000 just to be frank. She said when Tory went to jail, she said Sunstar asked her for money when he went to jail. So it wasn't no money thing when it came to them. She said, I can't be bought for any price, let alone a measly $3,000. So they said, wasn't the best thing ever happened to you was Tory mentioned you in that song? She said, no, the best thing happened to me was my children. She said, I've been blacklisted. I've been ostracized. She said it was easier for me to just say what everyone else was saying, that he did it. Like, that would have been easier. But I lost with my stance on Tory. They said the night before Kelsey testified, did you have any idea what Kelsey was going to say? She said no. And then they pull up like her day two, and they were trying to make something into something like it wasn't. Like, you know how we get on here and we'll say, listen, Jay-Z, if you listening, da 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 da. Megan Good, if you listening, da da da, like, you know, we'll say that. So she started out like in one of her commentary where she made a something like, Kelsey, listening for Kelsey, this is what you should do, type thing. And they almost tried to make it seem like they were reaching, unless it's something else that we missed, because tomorrow they said they do another 30 minutes to an hour. So they were trying to make that as if she has some. She was like, if I want to talk to Kelsey, I would just try to call Kelsey. Like, I'm not about to do it through no social media and say it on my platform. Then they showed another video of her saying she got hurt. That's cool. But how did you get hurt? I always said her was lying. A biatch F with my ninja. I'ma slap that hoe. So it was the video of that came up. They had another message from December 21st, 2022, and it was on the same day 8 of the trial. And it was the Tory. Hey, it's Tory. Hit me. So he was, you know, she was in communication with Tory during the trial. And then on the same day, she had a text from Sunstar which say, hey, Mila, call me when you get this. So then they put up the depth. You know, they were asking, well, how many times have you talked to Tory and Sunstar? She said she didn't know. So they put up the depth. And I guess in the depth, they were trying to get her to say, was it more than 100? She was like, I don't know. Is it more than 10,000? I don't know. It was a bunch of I don't know. And then she finally was like, well, it's more than 100. Thank you so much for the super chat. You are doing a great job. Thank you, because your girl mouth is getting dry. I'm a little food over there. But we almost finished, though. But I wanted to give y'all the play-by-play. I thought I wasn't as checked out as I thought now that I'm reading this, because I was like, man, I'm checked out. This kind of means I kind of can do a lot of this stuff almost in my sleep, because I was drinking coffee. I was like, oh my gosh, when is this going to end? So they just asking her about journalism, if she knows the rules, she knows the ethics, she know all of that. She's like, no, no, and no. Are you a reporter? She said, I think so. You said you were a reporter on that HBO special? She said, yes. He said, that's not true, is it? She said, I believe I was. Then they showed the picture of the video. Remember when Sunstar did his press conference and he was talking about Rock Nation, all that stuff? So they showed a still shot of him being on the shade room, the video where he was talking to people, and it was Milagro was standing in the back with the family. So they showed that. And then it was audio, and she was like, they showed her with the audio where she said, well, who's been present? Daystar sister, his other sister, which is me. That was out there, you know, sitting on Tory's side, the only black woman, and said, I ain't have a media pass. So it was kind of looking a little contradictory. I think that's what they was trying to pull up, that she was saying that she only sat with them because she didn't have her media pass, but she sat with them because she sat with them, is what they're saying. They said, did you have an open mind when you came in there into that trial? She said, yes. But you also liked that cat video, but you had an open mind? So then they were kind of crossing over. This one I said Milagro was like trying. She was like, listen, So apparently she was trying to finish a question and the guy moved on, the attorney moved on and was on, because she said, listen, the judge said that when the witness is talking, you have to stop talking. So she telling the attorney what the judge told the attorney, her attorney, last week when she didn't stop talking with Megan Pete, when he didn't stop talking when Megan Pete was on her. So it's like the judge said, when the witness started talking, you need to stop talking. Ain't that what you said? Ain't that what was said before when Megan Pete was up here on the stand? They said you were laughing like y'all think this whole thing of her getting shot is funny. She said nobody was laughing about her getting shot. She said, in no planet would I advocate for a man who I believe really did it. So she told the story and she said her mom, apparently it was a drug dealer or something that pulled out a gun on her mom, and she jumped in front of the gun. And she said, so there's no way if she would have known or believed that a black woman was being shot, that got shot, that she would have been advocating for a black man. She said, ain't no planet of which she will really believe this and still advocate for him anyway. Then she said, my thing is this: if someone lie once, you'll lie twice, and then you'll lie 3 times. I don't ever know how many times she don't lie. She caused confusion when she said she stepped on the glass. First, she was walking in front of the car with the high beams. Then she in the back of the car. Then Tori jumps to the front like Spider-Man. She said if she remained consistent, she wouldn't have had a lot of these problems. But again, you mad at me? I never said that she deserved to be shot. I always question whether she got shot. She said, it's not fair. Milagro said, it's not fair to blame it on me when the whole world has something to say. I was just talking to my audience. I feel like her manager, Ferris, now he's sitting in the gallery. I feel like her manager should be sued for emotional distress because he testified that he keep bringing her all the stuff that people saying online. Why he ain't getting sued? She said she needs to sue her manager for bringing her all of this information. He caused her distress. She said she did not work with any of these Petersons. And she said, you can believe what you wish, but they said you can believe what you wish, but it wasn't proven through the whole trial. And so they asked her, you got education and training in criminal justice, right? She said, I took 3 years. I have an AA. Obviously, you were paying attention to the Tory case, right? Yes. You sat for the trial, yes. And there were jury instruction, yes? Yes. You heard the word reasonable doubt. She said, I may have. You understand the conviction was a finding that was done in this case. It was beyond a reasonable doubt. She said, well, when I was in school, I didn't really get into trial law. She said, we didn't really get into the trial portion. She said, but you understand that that's the highest burden. She said, I can't really assess these things, but yeah, I heard beyond a reasonable doubt. I heard that. So then they play another clip where she says she think it's funny. People are just jealous of her relationship with Tori. They feel a way that Tori's daddy loves her. Other people act like they care. They mad that they care for her, the way that they do. They said, do you think that you were more credible because your proximity with Tori? And she talked about like people tried to get close to her because they thought she was close to Tori. It was like an audio of some sort. And she was saying these hoes need to be studied. So this an audio. At the end of the day, she be in her own bubble, but she's learning people's getting close so they thought they can get to Tori. And then they showed the video where she said, I ain't tell nobody that I was a reporter. I never went to school for journalism, never said I was anything but I know I'm someone who gets under people's skin. I never said I was a journalist, but I did say I know that I'm someone that gets under the folks' skin. I shouldn't be regarded as a news source anyway. So they playing clips because they're trying to, again, take away the whole I'm a media outlet. So then trial day 8, apparently there was testimony where Meg got up there and was saying it was hard for her during the testimony because she has to sit in front of Tori. Then she has to sit in front of people that are spreading misinformation about her. So this is a video of Milagro talking about day 8 of the trial. And she said, when she got on there, she said, who else? She said she thought that Meg was talking about her from the stand. And she said, well, who else would she be talking about? I was the only one that was over there with the family, and I'm the only one that's covered everything. And that everything that she's saying is contradictory. So then she goes into the whole, she thinks influencers are getting more attention than journalists. So journalists are just mad. They little haters because the bloggers are coming up. And so they try to minimize her and minimize the work of a lot of bloggers because they are jealous of how we're coming up. You know, they went to school for it, I guess. So she went into that because, again, the whole media piece is important to this case on whether she even has to deal with the defamation. So they asked her, was her lawyers going to try to find her to be a journalist? And your tweet shows something else. And she said, well, I'm new media. I'm not a traditional journalist. You have to be talented and you go, you know, we have the capacity to go further. And so we get a lot of pushback from legacy media. So they want to take away as if she's not real media, but it's really legacy media because they ain't nothing but haters. Okay. So she said, I feel like I am a reporter, so I don't need my attorneys to come up here and try to make me anything because that's what I am. So then they said, but you got all this drama that you do, but you don't really do any fact checking. So they said, so don't you think that you should have to take care of the damages that you create? Isn't that the cost of doing business? Like, if you're going to be out here like this is your business and you're saying this is a business, then when you hurt someone, you may have to pay those damages. And she said, stop making it seem like we don't fact check. That's not true. At the end of the day, we are entertainers and don't minimize our platforms. So then he said, you know what's interesting? I've never seen that disclaimer on your video until today. I've never saw that until today. And she basically said, well, if you ain't seen it today, then you ain't really did your due diligence because it been on this video. The disclaimer is on all my social media platforms. So he was like, was that disclaimer on Twitter? Is that disclaimer on here? Is this disclaimer on there? It's like the disclaimer is everywhere. It's in my description. So you just ain't looking hard enough. So you ain't did your homework. Because in every description box. Then they show another text of her being excited with her best friend. I guess she went to college with, was like, oh, girl, you about to get that interview from Sunstar. And this was like September 28th of 2020. It's like, you about to blow up. You know, this is it. So they asked her, was this the biggest, like, What do you mean you're about to blow up? And it was funny because she started responding. She's like, no, Mr. Sullivan. No, Mr. Sullivan. So they were asking her, like, is this your, like, what do you mean? Like, what was you so excited for? What next level did you think it was going to take you? And she was saying, well, these type of situations were on YouTube. And if it blows up like that, because it's a big story, that's something that was big in the culture. And I think she kind of reiterated that because you got this older white gentleman and you're kind of trying to seem like you relate and know about the culture. But as you talk, it seems like you don't really know what's going on. And she's like, yeah, in the culture, she said that's like a big thing because the next step might be television or whatever. So she's saying, no, she's done. She's not saying that Tory helped her platform in any way. She was already on the rise, but this might have took her to the next level, like the next thing that she wanted to do. So, of course, they were trying to go with their position that you had a benefit being connected to Tory. It helped your platform. It helped you. Just say it helped you. And she's like, no, it actually hurt her platform. It didn't really help her. So then they decide to put on that cat video. And I sat there and I was like, so he did have like some symbolism where it was court. So he starts out like he's a butcher. He got the horse leg. Then he had like, he's in court. Then he's at the hospital. So I seen how you can try to get the symbolism. But I'm like, what was that? That's music now, guys? Okay. Okay. That was the first time I heard it. So heard about it a lot, but I'm looking like, oh, okay. So they played the whole video. And then they kept saying, like, if he's innocent, why ain't he just testifying? He's like, did Team Tory, were you part of Team Tory to tell him what not to do? And he's like, it wasn't no Team Tory. What are y'all even talking about? Why do you keep saying Team Tory? So they said, well, how would it have changed your life? Like you're telling your girlfriend that it would change your life. How would it change your life? And she was like, it would have just been a one notch on my belt. Like he wasn't the first story. And you did everything you could to wreck someone's life, didn't you? She said, I didn't try to wreck someone's life. I didn't try to wreck anyone's life. Is there anything that Tory asked you to do that you didn't do? I didn't do anything for Tory. Does your conscience ever talk to you? No, intent matters. I didn't say, let me go hurt Megan today on the live. That wasn't my intent. If I had information beyond a shadow of a doubt, then maybe my position would change. He said, but it was proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So how high is beyond a shadow of a doubt? Like, how do you prove that? Because beyond a reasonable doubt is a higher standard. So what's beyond a shadow of a doubt? What does that entail? So then yeah, that's pretty much it. So that was today, guys. Tomorrow, again, they are going to have, make sure y'all hit the like button and subscribe. Tomorrow, they are going to have where the cross-examination of Milagro will continue for at least 30 minutes to an hour. That's what they say. But they also said we should have been done. So we don't know. And then apparently Meg is going to come back on because they want to question her, I think, about the media stuff. And then there was it videos? It was a couple of exhibits that they had issues about. So what this judge does, you know how sometimes you see sidebar, she don't do no sidebars, okay? If you object and it's something that she can't rule on right then or think that it's going to be a minute, she'll reserve it and say, we'll talk about it outside the presence of the jurors. Yep. And then when the break comes, they talk about it. So sometimes what happens is now you got to recall a witness to maybe enter in this information or ask the questions because the judge ruled in your favor. So that is what's happening tomorrow. Then of course they'll have closing. I don't think the jury, if they get this case tomorrow, they'll be deliberating into Wednesday. So do y'all got any questions? I know I wasn't paying this chat now, nan piece of attention, and I'm sorry. Hey, phone calls from prison. Good to see you. Thank you so much. I definitely hit the like button. Thank you, Resilient 699. So yeah, I think it was, if y'all say what kind of day, I think it was a decent day for Meg. I think people are rooting for her from the media aspect because they're like, they trying to silence us, and they, a lot of people feel like it's almost like a try to shut us up because we taking over type thing. Never really thought about it that deep, but a lot of my content isn't necessarily like everyone else. I literally just talk about the law and documents and trials or whatever, and I don't really go beyond that for the most part. And but yeah, people feel like they're trying to push them out because of how we're coming up. We've heard journalists say how much they made as journalists, and so some people they feel like they don't have to fact check, so because they don't have to, like, bloggers don't fact check, so they're not the same as journalists. So it's that conversation we've had back and forth, and they've been really nice journalists that we met, and I understand their position. Just how some people feel like an honorary doctorate is cool, and I feel like I went to school, so I don't like honorary degrees like that. That's how some people feel. That's, I think, the position of the journalist. So y'all don't go to school, you don't got no ethics, you don't know how to fact check, you don't know how to cross check, you don't know the loopholes, you don't know the workarounds, you don't know anything, but y'all out here just giving out information. So that's kind of their position. So what this will do is, if they say that she's media, at least in Florida, that may end up being persuasive authority for other jurisdictions. And that means that we would have almost the same protections, similar protections, or the bloggers or the YouTubers will have similar protection. So what the judge is doing is said that will be a part of the jury question as to whether they believe their media. If they say yes, then they may dismiss that defamation portion, or it may take away also, I think, if they're considered media, then for they have to prove actual damages. So when you have defamation per se, you don't have to prove damages. And so apparently, I think with media, when you have it, you have to prove damages if they're media. So it can work well, either dismiss it, or maybe it's something with the damages, but of course they're going to go for the dismissal. The deep fake, some people said they feel a little iffy now. Like, they feel like now that they heard her testify and explain it, where the whole video, because a lot of times we heard a bunch of snippets. So when you see the whole video, it looks like she was saying she believed it's AI, and she was like, well, no, because this look real. And people are like, well, why do you want it to be real? Because it wouldn't fall under the statute that you share deep fake video, because it's a real video. So you can't share something deep fake if it ain't fake. So, and you have to have a reasonable belief that you thought that it was fake. So that, and then the intentional infliction of emotional distress, I think that they put out there that perhaps it was other people. That's why they're talking about all these diss tracks. That's why they're talking about academics. That's why they're talking about Aiden Ross and Joe Button and all these people to ad nauseum. We heard their name several times. That's why they're talking about them, because you can't just, she's saying, why are you blaming me for all of this stuff? I'm a smaller platform. I don't have money like that. And I don't have the influence like you're trying to say that I do. And so why aren't you coming after all these people? So it'll be very, very interesting to see how they tie this up and what the jury thinks. And we'll probably have some type of a verdict, I would say Wednesday. I don't think it's going to be over tomorrow. But if you guys will be so kind and hit the like button, I'm going to see. You can. I can't see them considering her media. Sarah said, most of these bloggers want to be able to bully and slander without repercussions. It's cute until you get sued for saying you don't like someone. She's delusional. Don't nobody care about Tory or his daddy relationship with you. If she would have left the woman alone, she wouldn't be getting sued right now. Yeah, she's been manipulating the public from the beginning. That's why she was always online. She violated the gag order to make a public statement. She knew she couldn't speak on this. That's from Rap Battles Rules. Will help, these names, honey. Can y'all get some Bobbies and some Sues and some Peters or something? Celebs and legacy media want us to shut up. Before you head out, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. That's right. Thank you. You said I appreciate the read. I'm glad you did because I was on my way to bed. Now I'm about to go eat, then go to bed because I'll be back at it tomorrow. I missed some spicy comments. Thank you. Very detailed breakdown. I'm sorry if I did. I knew, look, it's 2 hours and 45 minutes and I didn't even go over the comments. That's what I'm saying. You said Team Milagro. Tory lied, Kelsey lied. Why you focus on just Meg's lies giving biased? Well, that's what they're actually using to talk about her post where she said there were credible witnesses that weren't credible. And so they're like, Meg, why are you saying that it was just that she meant you? She could have been meeting a whole lot of people. She was the only one that testified. That's one of the things that they're arguing. You said she just making things up. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're not gonna say that she wasn't shot. Like, come on, y'all. They have bullet fragments. I'm gonna need y'all not to be that. It's cool to support, but support with real authority. What y'all saying don't make any. This is what's all this for. They're saying a lot of what your talking points are is why she need to be sued because she's influencing so many people. That's what they're saying. You said I pray whatever spirit has people sign with this leprechaun and his cronies never reaches me. Oh gosh. Elite Leo said academics was also live the evening before Kelsey was set to testify, and he claimed to have a theory about Kelsey asking for immunity. I have the screen recording. Well, send it to me so I can look at it. Thank you for the super chat. And then it was some people that felt like the videos that were being played were not that explosive. They felt like perhaps there may be other videos and clips that they've heard that they thought would have been a part of this trial. So I don't know what that is, but it was a couple of people that said that as well. So it's interesting. They need to get the video of her saying the AI video didn't have a lot of views and she was going to run it up. Oh wow. But see, that's what I was getting from a few people. They was like, where are they getting these videos from? I don't know. Yes, they said she was a Meg fan back in the day. And they I guess the theory is she reached out to Meg first and Meg didn't respond. That's according to the best friend or the former friend that was the mod. So you said, I honestly believe everyone knows how the verdict is going to go per everything that we know about the judge. What do the judge got to do with it? The judge don't make the decision. Y'all do know there's a jury, and the jury is the one that finds you liable or not liable. So whatever, all this stuff people coming to me about this judge, first of all, I don't think she's unfair. I think she's socking it to him on both sides, and she's also giving a little grace every now and then, but not really on both sides. Because she talk amongst yourselves and let me know when you can't figure it out. She feel like y'all grown-ups and lawyers, so you guys confer and figure it out. So I think that's the case, but people are acting like the judge makes the decision. The judge does not make the decision in this case. It's a jury trial. So regardless to what people are trying to infer and imply about the judge, no. His supporters are slow. They think he's the bigger star. Tory does not have 1 billion views. His net worth is 2 to 4 million. Meg is 30 to 40 million. Meg #1 record, Tory 0. Meg 3 Grammys, Tory 0. Okay. All right. YouTube is the #1 media outlet. Okay. Ice Macchiato said, for real, I don't care if a micro bit of bullet touches me. I've been shot. Didn't she say she wasn't? Yeah, she did say she wasn't a journalist. That's what they showed the video of. Maybe you asked that question before I got to that part. I know I was a little slow. Yeah, say she. You know what? I would agree. I think we are media because media is a form of communication to get out information through the outlet. Where I mean, it's called social media. I mean, I think it is media when we're on it. The thing that I did not know is that Florida puts it all in one, where there's no difference between journalists and bloggers because it's all considered media. So I was more familiar with it being a difference between journalists, meaning people with credentials or people that went to school, and like bloggers or YouTubers or content creators, rather. Like it was a difference between journalists and content creators. Apparently, they don't really make that distinction in Florida. So if they don't make that distinction, and we're going to see what the definition is, because they're going to put it in an instruction. And once we see what that definition is, then we'll see, like, does she fit in it? But they're going to allow the jury to make that decision. So oh, y'all arguing who's successful, who ain't successful. All right. I know it's been a minute. It's almost 3 hours. I got to get off of here because, child, as soon as I go like this, it's going to be time to get up for this court. And this traffic is crazy. I bought a new little sweater thing so I could try not to be as cold. Yeah, I thought I was really catching a cold. I'm like, oh, I know I ain't come here and get sick. That's terrible. And it's just because of being in the courtroom. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the live. Make sure that you come back tomorrow when I have my recap. And I'll let you know whenever we get on Verdict Watch. So Courtney Makeup said, I have a journalism degree and have been editor-in-chief of newspaper with reporter handing assignments to me. So best believe when I start covering stories, I'm going to do it the right way. Okay. You said Meg brought more attention to Millie. You think so? You don't think like her being on Academics platform, her being apparently Aiden Ross, something connected to him, Joe Budden. Didn't Joe Budden mention Millie? Because I thought they was going back and forth at one point. I can't keep up. I don't know. So media and journalism has two separate. That's what I thought, but apparently that's not what it is here. So learn something new every day. So anyways, y'all, you guys have a good night. I'll let y'all tomorrow.